Hello, everybody. Thank you for being here for a Sunday night show. Normally, I'm here with my friend Mars, but most of you know she moved this last week and moved into an apartment that's not set up. But I invited some friends. You probably know me, Jennifer. Hello. Comics will break your heart. But I'll go ahead and introduce, or if you want to introduce yourself, TM, tell us who you are.
I'm TM Nerdy. I love comic books. I love this community. I talk with everybody throughout this community every Wednesday. So definitely check that out with the PCP Army Bad Batch. I also drop 10 my top 5 indie comics that are dropping every Friday. And yeah, I just love chatting and hanging out with people in this community.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like you are like absolutely the comic book community hype person for sure. Like you are just always talking to the community and hyping up new books, especially indie publishers. I love that. So cool. Josue.
Hello.
You've been on the channel a couple of times, but you're usually you're almost always in the chat, but tell everyone who you are.
Yes, I'm Josue. And I also do my own comic book podcast as I'm co-host of that one. We Have Issues, plug. And my other music-focused one's called Jukebox Vertigo. It's a lot of fun. But yeah, this will be my 3P episode being on here, so thank you.
3P, ooh, I love it. Triples is safest. Had to have that reference, so thank you, Greg, for laughing. So bearded Greg. Tell us who you are.
Man, I'm Greg, Bearded Comic Bro. We do a show every Friday night together. Jennifer and I do with Ryan and Will if he ever comes back. But I do interviews every Monday on my show. I do random stuff on Wednesdays. I do a game show with my wife on Fridays. So, man, it's just fun hanging out. And I'm really sad that you don't have the cheap version of StreamYard because you don't have the duck. And now this looks really silly on my microphone.
I just, I was just looking and I'm like, oh wait, I do have, okay. So if I'm going to do this,
you can do it.
Okay. What we've realized on the Friday show is that Greg's microphone goes into the duck. And so went ahead and put that up there. So
perfect. There we go. He's all good. So then we gave him arms and legs like you would want on a duck. So
yeah.
No, this is fun. I've never, I haven't been on this show of yours. I've been on your channel before, but not for this show.
Yeah. It's weird, isn't it?
It is.
Cool. So, normally when Mars and I are here, one of the first things that we talk about is like news in the comic book community. What's some news well, let's start off with this. Let's start off with some trailers. We saw some trailers last week during the Super Bowl. I didn't actually watch the Super Bowl, even for the commercials. Were there some good commercials that I missed other than like the preview ones, trailer ones?
I don't think there's been a good commercial at the Super Bowl besides trailers in like 5 years.
Wow.
I don't know. I overly enjoyed the Zeus one with Arnold Schwarzenegger. I did like seeing him as Zeus.
I want to see that because I missed everything.
Yeah. Okay, so Zeus, Arnold Schwarzenegger. I'm kind of digging that.
Yeah, if you guys have not, I forget what the commercial was actually about, but it was really cool. Now I want to see Arnold Schwarzenegger come into the DCEU or the Marvel universe and play like a god character.
Okay, who would he play? Like if you had a dream cast at all?
Maxie Zeus. Have him play Maxie Zeus, the DC villain, Travis.
That's what I was thinking. To be the perfect one. That's why I mentioned DC first instead of Marvel.
Yeah.
And that. So yeah, definitely, I would like to see that happen. Saying it here now, let's make it happen. Hashtag that everywhere and. Well,
hashtag Arnold Schwarzenegger for the other DC Zeus.
Yes.
Do you think that there's something written in his contract, you can't play similar characters, or whenever character actors do that there's you can't play a similar character to someone that you've played for the? I just imagine that's in a contract somewhere.
I don't know. It'd be interesting to see. I don't think so. I don't know.
What are y'all's thoughts about the Doctor Strange?
Oof. Well, I guess the elephant in the room is Patrick Stewart for sure.
Yeah,
Oh, man,
is that Patrick? And is it Patrick Stewart?
Right. I mean, the voice is just so spot on, and so whoever's doing it is just doing a fantastic job.
I don't think it is. Like, here's my hot take that it's not Patrick Stewart, it's James McAvoy, and they're screwing with us. In the trailer, they changed his voice, they tweaked his voice in that, and made us think that it's Patrick Stewart, and it's going to be James McAvoy.
MCU does do that trailer swerve. Once you watch the movie, it's like, oh, good job.
And I think that they also superimpose it. It's like, because everyone's like, okay, it's going to be the Illuminati, and we're going to get to see that. We're going to see certain characters, and X-Men are going to be there. Fantastic Four is going to be there. Do you think that Marvel's going to swerve again with that? Do you think that they're playing with our emotions
and not have them in it?
Yeah, like at all.
I'd be shocked just from the aspect of Marvel has to find a way to integrate them into the MCU, and now that they can, I'd be really. This is the easiest, way for them to do it, I think. And from my knowledge of Marvel, I'm not, as you guys know, I'm not a big Marvel head, so I could be wrong if there's there's better storylines, but I would assume this is probably the easiest storyline for them to incorporate. Marvel, having the X-Men, having Fantastic Four, and even bringing over, because I don't think they will, but some with animated somehow, because you're bringing in the X-Men now on Disney Plus for the animated series, so who knows what they're gonna do. Marvel could do anything.
my swerve is even this sounds ridiculous because it's a movie about the multiverse, but this movie already seems like too packed for it to also just include the mutants. I think it's just like straight up, if anything, just since we can all digest it easier, a variant of an Xavier, and this is just strictly an Illuminati focused Xavier. That's what I would want, because we always get like that one MCU thing that they just tend to just botch, like Planet Hulk and Mandarin 1.0. Then they did redeem themselves, but like there's always like that one thing, or Iron Patriot, and it's just like, maybe this one thing that we can have the Illuminati. Let's just have this one thing be really cool.
Just don't fuck this one up. Yeah. I think that one thing that's so interesting to me is seeing that there is a little blip of a character, and they're like, oh, that's Superior Iron Man. And then all of a sudden, Superior Iron Man #1 goes up to like $200 overnight, and everyone's kind of specking on it. And then, a week later, people are like, oh, it's maybe not actually that. It's probably not that. And then it's like a $15 book again.
I mean, that's how the market goes. I mean, would you, though, say, I'm not saying when they're bringing in X-Men or Fantastic Four but bringing in at least one person from that universe, I think opens the door to say, hey, this is a possibility now. And yeah. I don't know, is there someone that, obviously Professor X seems like a good one, but is there someone that would be able to for X-Men and Fantastic Four kind of bridge that gap a little bit to say hey, because I feel like Spider-Man, can I do a spoiler?
Yeah.
Spider-Man has kind of bridged that gap with the TV version of MCU already with the movie by bringing that door open by just one character. So now it wouldn't make sense if it makes sense if anyone else showed up. So I wonder if they're going to bring one of those characters from the Fox property and just say, hey, the door is open now that we know that world exists.
Well, they kind of already did that with WandaVision, with bringing in Pietro, the one Quicksilver from the X-Verse.
There's another swerve. Thank you. I forgot about that one.
No, I think that they did that, but then they knew what they were doing, and they were red herring us, where they're like, we're going to dangle this in front of you, and it wasn't actually what was his name, Ralph Boner.
Yeah, it felt like a swerve within a swerve again.
Yeah.
We juked you. No, we juked you again. Woo, watch out.
Yeah. I kind of like those. I kind of dig those because as someone who, I enjoy thinking about speculation, but I don't invest in any type of speculation. So my wallet doesn't get hurt in that way. But I like thinking about those theories, but it's just entertainment to me, right? If the character that I think it's going to be doesn't go in, I'm not too hurt, and I'm not flipping the table.
It's I lost $1,000 on this.
Yeah. If that happens, I kind of feel bad for you, but I kind of don't. So some of the other news, I feel like I have been maybe on Twitter a little bit too much, and I feel like it's a really big conversation on Twitter right now. Josue is nodding their head like, yep, I know.
I'm always on Twitter. That's why I was like, yep, I'm way too much on Twitter.
But I feel like it's being talked a lot about there. But Comixology recently, they officially finally did a big merge with Amazon. They had been kind of merged with Amazon, but then finally, I guess this like app released and they merged with like Kindle, and so all of the apps are a lot similar feeling. But for comics in particular versus books, I think a lot of comics readers are really upset about this. Are any of you here like impacted by that? Like either your digital library or like just the way you read digitally, is either of that impacted?
Anybody? Me? No. I don't have Comixology, so I mostly stick to physical. If digital, it's going to be manga and web comics.
Okay.
Yeah,
Travis,
same for me. I don't deal with Comixology at all. I just either buy singles or pick up trade paperbacks.
Yeah.
I mean, and we kind of talked about this Friday, Jennifer. Like for me, I don't buy my collection via Comixology, so that aspect of the purchasing comics through the digital app doesn't bother me. Where I use it as solely for a reader, for Amazon going through of looking at, the Comixology, Amazon Unlimited, whatever they call it now, and I'll download trades if I'm traveling for work or if I'm going on vacation and I don't want to bring a short box like some people do.
Yeah.
I'll have my tablet and I'll read trades that I just haven't gotten around to yet. So that aspect, I don't think that, and I don't use it enough, but I don't think that aspect of the Unlimited really has been affected that much. I honestly found it easier to navigate through the discovering books from that aspect of when I was searching for things. But I know from the aspect of people trying to do digital, like who have their libraries and stuff, there's so many headaches with that. I'm just glad I don't have to deal with that, because I just used it as like my library app of like, oh cool, I'll check this out for this week and return it.
Yeah. I feel like it's like if there's a story that I really want to read and it's like, oh, I missed issue 3 or something like that and I didn't get it digital, like something like that, I'll go ahead and buy. So it's really like a smattering. But you're right, for people who like consistently each week have their pull list or their subscription list on there, I could see how reformatting the library through that is just a pain in the ass. Like, and even though I'm like, well, there's these things called local comic book stores that I'm really a big fan of, but as someone who moved from Florida, where the closest comic book shop was 45 minutes away, I understand where people are in that like comic shop desert that you just can't get to. Or like TM, I know you said that you like usually get a couple weeks worth of books. So people who end up with like lots and lots of stuff, because it's quite a while before you get to go.
Yeah, I'm just reading up on like the whole Comixology thing. I guess Patton Oswalt had a lot to say about that.
Yeah, I did. Basically kind of saying, hey, you can go to your local comic book shop and get all these. But yeah, I love Patton Oswalt. He's a really big nerd.
He is. I didn't realize that until I started getting back into reading comics, how big of a nerd he is, and I love him for it.
Oh, for sure.
Excellent. Any other news that's on your radar, guys, that I'm like forgetting about or not thinking of?
The one I had mentioned pre-show was I didn't think I was going to be that excited for, except we're seeing it again, happening again, is Michael Walsh announcing like the next roster for Silvercoin.
Yeah,
it's going to be such an exciting one because it's everybody's like go-to horror dump story that they either can't or won't do it in their own books, so they can just go to Silvercoin and just tell their own dirty story. And we got Tynan; he's going to be comfortable on that seat. Stephanie Phillips, which I'm really excited for hers, and then Johnny Christmas, who I'm actually a really big fan of. His Tartarus book was a really good sci-fi book. And then the last one, which after that, I was like, well, who can it be? A big name drop or someone like anybody? And it was Pornsock Bishishode, who did Infidel and currently the Good Asian. Good Asian. So with his, after reading this week's Silvercoin from Vita, I'm actually really excited for it to be like not just like some gory horror story, but it's more of a social, more of a social like horror story that's like the evil that spreads around, and I'm really excited for his project.
Yeah. So spoiler alert, I actually haven't read Silvercoin yet. I picked it up, but I haven't read it yet. So tell me about it, but please don't tell me everything about it. Tell me all your thoughts and feelings, but don't describe anything about the book.
A guy gets a coin and it all goes bad.
Okay, damn it.
What color is the coin?
Silver, and it's got a little weird eye.
That's too much. We've already spoken too much.
Yeah. You said that you really like Johnny Christmas. Did you get a chance to pick up his book, Crema?
Not that one. I read his other one. Was it him? Yeah. I think he drew that one. If he was an artist. But anyway, Sheltered. It was a pre-apocalypse tale, and it was just silly.
Crema came out. It was like a comicsology original.
Ooh.
They just went ahead and like published it. It was pretty good. It's like a ghost story, but there's a barista, and it's like a ghost story. She can see ghosts when she drinks caffeine. She falls in love, and it ends up kind of being like really cute. They have to kind of like solve a murder. Yeah, it's really good.
Excellent. Enough to chew.
Yeah, but without like eating.
Right.
Alrighty. So I have actually like 3 weeks of books here that I'm prepared to talk about, but I'm just because I'm like, I haven't had a show in 3 weeks, y'all. I mean, we did our show, but normally on the Sunday show, I talk about everything that is read. But I've got some books from this week that I read. Do you guys want to? Whew.
Yes.
Are you going to talk about last week's books too? Because I have that stack over, so
I probably could. I've got it right here.
Okay.
It's right behind me too.
Well, I have it in distance if I need to go get them.
Excellent. Cool. Well, let's go ahead and maybe get started with DC books. As you know, Mars and I normally go ahead and do like DC and then Marvel and then Indie. What were some of the books that you read for DC? Any that stood out for you this week?
I mean, like,
there's only 3 or 4. Yeah, there was a lot of DC this week.
It's not really fair when Nightwing comes out. Nothing else is a contender.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm looking. I'm like, wow, I only have 3 DC books this week, which is a light week for me. And then Marvel and everything else is all indie.
But are we really starting with the best one?
Yeah.
It does have the best cover too.
It really
Dude,
does.
It's so pretty. It really is nice.
But you put on the thumbnail, you put the B cover though, Jennifer.
I did, because he was eating pizza, and I'm like, okay, this is going to be a hangout show. Like, I don't know. I was like, do we all bring pizza? Like, how do we eat it?
I wish.
Is that what we were supposed to do? We were supposed to show up with pizza?
Did you not get the memo, Travis?
No, man.
Sorry.
Well, it was fun talking with you. See ya.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like Tom Taylor doing such a great job with both of these characters. It really blended into less of a Nightwing book and more of a Superman book for me, but still just what Tom Taylor is doing with the characters and with what he wants, like the soul of these characters to be, I think is fantastic. And I love that these two are hanging out together.
Oh, totally. You're right. It is more of a, like, if there's gonna be a focus on the story, it was focused on Superman, so it's still at least like on Superman now. Yeah, he was sure Superman. I freaking like the part that it kind of opened with the New 52 era. I kind of dug that, and also just how much, just to show how much of a piece of shit Bruce is. Like, there can be a whole build up, a whole run to the Joker making Bruce believe that one of the Robins has been dead for like 2 issues. At the end of it all, Bruce will still just like pat him on the shoulder and be like, "That'll do, pig." But if you see here in the first pages, Superman finds his son and rushes to hug him, and that's it. There's no angry face. There's no yelling. He's just like a fucking dad. Oh, it's a good book.
Well, and to even go to your point, there is right before that happened, before they found him, you see him. They're like, they go to the cave and see Jonathan Kent, and Batman's like, "What happened?" And Dick Grayson's like, he's hiding in a cave and a giant bat showed up as you're ripping the mask off of Batman. Like, that's the most boss move ever. Like, you're a baller, Dick Grayson. That's when you know that's the Nightwing Dick Grayson. Not only because he's wearing the classic red suit there, the red Nightwing suit part, but he's literally ripping the mask off of Batman. Like, who else can do that but Dick Grayson?
But the first Robin. Yeah, no, absolutely. It was a good scene. It was a good opener.
Yeah. And that's Tom Taylor's strength, I think, is writing dialogue. And that's what I've loved about the Superman Son of Kal-El run so far. That's what I think is going to be the beauty of this and the Nightwing story and continuing to go, because you get to see the heart of these characters. And he writes Jonathan Kent in a way which feels like Superman and like hope for other people still, but it's a different style of hope. It's like almost like the more young idealistic hope that I think, you know, we have kind of, where it's like not your father's hope. Like it's written so well that I think Tom Taylor is going to do really good stuff with this.
Absolutely.
Excellent. So we've got another guest joining us. I'm going to go ahead and add them to the stream. I don't know if you can see. Hello to Bueller. Are you in the Bueller bus right now?
I am in the Bueller bus right now. I'm chilling in my bus.
That is so cool. Well, thank you so much for joining us. I really, really appreciate stopping in. We were just getting started talking to about, you probably heard if you were backstage a little bit, talking about Nightwing. And we were talking about, you haven't read any of Nightwing yet?
No, what is that? So that's something new?
He's a new guy.
Just a little, yeah.
New guy? Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
New blood out there.
Punchline, something like that?
Yeah, Punchline is in it, yeah.
Yeah. It's awesome. Bob likes it, I know that.
Okay, yeah.
It's written by Tom King, right?
The other
Close
Tom,
enough.
the other DC Tom. Close enough, yeah.
Tom Taylor?
Yeah.
Yep.
Tom Taylor, yeah. And he lives out in a different country.
Is it Australian?
Yeah, it's Australia.
It's Australia.
Yeah. Love it.
He's like the Travis of this podcast.
It's funny because I'm trying to get him to come to the Washington State Summer Con, and it costs a lot of money to get some guy to come from Australia to come here.
It does. You have to like import him.
Yes.
And the shipping fees are ridiculous.
Yeah, so it might not happen, but I'm trying.
When is Washington State Summer Con? I know it's in the summer.
It's in May, I think. May or April, something like that. Yeah. March, April, May. It's in May, sometime in May.
Awesome.
We got Kevin Eastman coming, so we're excited for that one.
Oh.
He's the headliner.
So, Bueller, I mean, I'm sure most people know you because, in my opinion, you're probably one of the most popular comic book YouTubers. And so most people probably know like what you are doing. You just ended the Coffee and Comic show, but
thank you for being on the show a few times, by the way. It was nice to have you as a guest.
Thank you for inviting me and letting me be a guest. I can only return the favor.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you.
But what are you doing now? For the people who don't know, like, what are you doing now?
Well, right now, literally, my house is almost empty. I'm outside my house. I got rid of all my furniture yesterday. I took my niece. She got a brand new apartment. She didn't have any furnishings, so I gave her all my stuff. And as of the 1st of March, I am officially homeless. And that's pretty much how it goes. So as of the 1st of March, I am on my bus and living in here full time. I'm not exactly like leaving like that day. I'm going to be around in Portland for a few days and then in the state of Oregon for probably almost the whole month of March. There's some legal stuff I have to take care of with getting the bus transferred over to the company and registered as an RV and just a bunch of stuff like that takes a long time for the DMV. I don't want to be driving around the country with a trip permit in the back window. I want actual plates and stuff like that. So I kind of have to stick around and get that stuff taken care of. But
are you going to get a vanity license plate? What would it say?
In the state of Oregon, those cost money, man. Those are like if you get it done, you have to pay every year like $400.
Oh my God. I think like in Florida, it was maybe like 100. I mean, that still seems like a lot for a vanity plate, but if you could have a vanity plate, like, would it be like comics and coffee or coffee? Like or just Bueller? What would it say?
It'd be nipples too.
Nipples too. Yeah.
We're not perverts.
Yeah, we're not perverts. For everyone who doesn't know, Bueller has a cat named Nipples. I have played with Bueller's nipples before. It was really good.
Yeah, I can't say the same thing about Jennifer. But she was at my house, so that's good enough for me.
And when I saw nipples and heard you were going on a trip, I was like, yo, if you don't have plans for nipples, like I'll try to make a, but it sounds like nipples is going to a good home. So I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah, she's going to my daughter's.
Excellent.
Hopefully that turns out well. I don't know. We'll give it a shot. So
Excellent. Well, what's another DC book anyone reading? Is anyone reading Aquaman or Aqua?
Yeah,
This one right
Aquaman.
Aquaman the
Coming?
beginning.
Yeah.
Aquaman. There's a new one called Aquaman coming out.
Aquaman, yeah, and I didn't mention it earlier with like the news segment, but Ram V is writing a new Aquaman story, and it's going to go cosmic under the ocean, and it's going to be drawn by Chris Ward, who, like, I just get lost in his artwork. So I'm really
There's
excited
another one
for that.
coming out called Aquaman on Films.
Aquaman.
It's a spoof of what was that show called? What was that? There was a show on Fox a long time ago. I can't remember the name, but they had the Men on Films. Bearded Comic Bro. I think he knows what I'm talking about. It was
Chat, help us out.
in living color. In living color.
Oh.
And
Oh.
anyway, it's a bad joke, but I'm showing my age. So I'm sorry.
You're gonna have to like send me like a YouTube video of like this is the reference that I'm talking about.
Yeah, official, unofficial comedy. They know. In
Yeah.
living color. It was a wonderful sketch series that they did. They probably couldn't get away with it now.
Probably not. I don't think
What-
like anything.
Wasn't that the first thing Jim Carrey was in too?
Yeah, he was one of the cast members of In Living Color.
I love Jim Carrey. Well, this book right here, Aquaman the Becoming, it was the last issue from this limited series, but it's going to go into Aquaman is going to be the new one. Josue, did you get a chance to read this one? What'd you think?
No, I hear all about it from my co-host. Like,
Right.
I haven't read it, but it's one that's like I wish I did because
Mhm.
it sounds really cool every time.
It is. I think that it gave a lot of voice to a character that I normally wouldn't be interested in if it's just like because it's not Jason Momoa, Aquaman, but I really enjoyed it. Brandon Thomas did a really good job, and since this is the last issue of the series, should be a trade coming out, hardcover coming out soon, hopefully in
I
the next
definitely
couple.
want to jump on the trade.
Yeah, is anyone
I-
else reading it?
I read
you
the
read-
first 3 issues and I really liked it. As you've noticed lately on
Yeah.
my pull list, I forget to get books because I sometimes go to the store. I'm like, I don't have my pull list made up, and then I get behind, and I'm like, well, I just will get the trade then.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I feel like
I know what that is. It's a good thing. I actually did that joke on my preview video. There was a cover of a DC book that had, I think it was Nightwing, and it had him in. It was the B cover, and he was like at a gym with his shirt off, like lifting iron, and it was really suggestive. And
yeah.
this is 2 snaps and around the world or something like that. And only a few people picked up on it and stuff, but it was pretty good.
I feel like those covers have been getting a lot of attention for being very like risque, and I'm like, I love it. Please give me like all the cheesecake covers for Nightwing and
The Robin's
Love it.
covers.
the Robin's covers. Yeah, yep.
Maybe it was a Robin one. Yeah, those are interesting.
2 of the other books that I've read this week, both I think Nubia. I think this one ended. That this one might be of 6, but it's going into the trial of the Amazons.
Yeah,
Anyone
the
else?
last one will be the part of the event.
Yep. So did you read this one? What'd you think of
Yes.
it?
I'm actually really liking this Nubia run. I don't have a lot of Nubia books, but this one, like her being the queen and owning up to stepping up to that role, and like her just like shifting stuff around or like making it her own, not just like following after Hippolyta, and actually doing some cool stuff like with as it can be. It was kind of predictable, but at the same time, it doesn't mean it was bad. Like bringing back Medusa and giving her a redemption arc on the island, I thought that was pretty fucking dope.
So you mentioned that like you don't have much reading like Nubia books and that. Like, is this the first thing you jumped into for Nubia? Like, can people jump into this series and just like know everything they need to know?
not everything you need to know, but it does do some good callbacks on like who Nubia was before being queen, on like being a champion of the door and just having a different type of role within Themyscira, and now just like kind of like taking a few levels up after that, being queen of them all. So it was pretty cool how just like how she's just like working it for her, not for herself, but in a different way to maybe improve the island.
Yeah, and I think like it wasn't this issue, but it was maybe issue 4, maybe even issue 3. But there's a moment where Nubia is comparing herself to Hippolyta, or at least like how others are treating her. Like, we could be doing the same things, but you are going to treat us completely different. Like, I am not her. Like, I am going to do different things. I am going to handle these situations differently. So I like how I feel like you don't need to know anything about like really Nubia at all, or anything about necessarily all of like Wonder Woman. You could probably even just have maybe watched the Wonder Woman movies and know a little bit about Themyscira and know a little bit about like that Amazon backstory, and read this. Yep.
Also, pages like this just fucking win.
Can I go ahead and let me go ahead and full screen you?
Like this?
Yeah.
And her just down there. Look how small. But at the same time, she's a big woman. Like, and also her weapon, it's a spear that like collapses into a lasso, and she's just like owning that shit. I'm hoping she kind of sticks by it for like a while.
Yeah, I think she will. I hope I haven't seen anything planned for DC that's like this is what they're going to be doing after Trial of the Amazons. But I hope that they bring her back, or I hope they don't like collapse that universe or like separate it. I hope they keep it.
I'm curious what's going to be like post all of that Wonder Woman world in the DCU.
There we go. Yeah. And did anyone else get a chance to read Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow? Anyone else reading this one?
No.
Same thing as Aquaman. I forgot which number I was on, and I didn't pick it up.
Yeah.
I dropped it after the first 2 issues, but like after Nick Comic Culture has been talking about it and talking how well it was done and that, I'm definitely willing to jump back into it. It was just kind of like, it's a different take on Supergirl, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that Supergirl has, not necessarily that she's always been like a flawed character, but she definitely doesn't have to be Superman, right? She can be a little bit vulnerable. And I definitely think that this book allowed her to be that. And most of you know, I'm not necessarily like a huge Tom King fan. And I think that the thing that he does that I don't always love is the back and forth storyline, where you're just jumping between like past, present, future, whatever it may be. He only did that a little bit in this, but I think that it worked really, really well. And it's only an 8-issue series, so they're probably going to do a nice like thick-sized hardcover collection that I think will be totally worth it.
My co-host thoroughly loved this book.
Yeah.
Like every single time he just kept being more excited. His one thing was like by the end of this book, it's just like, let's just drop Supergirl. She's fucking Superwoman. Like this book just like proved that.
Yeah. Yep. Any other DC books that anyone read this week? Because I think that was it for me.
I did get Wonder Woman just like because I'm really invested in like getting into Trials of the Amazons.
Yeah.
The issue itself was okay. It was just like tying up loose ends over like this 3-issue arc. It was the epilogue that was really fucking good. That was like a road to Trial of the Amazons. And if you need at least one of those prologues, this is it. Wonder Woman 784, because I'm telling y'all, when we're all reading it, Artemis is gonna step up and do something really fucking cool. I don't want to get into spoilers over like what this secret meeting was about, but she's gonna be so badass. If anything, I need more Artemis books because I'm not really familiar with like heavy DC lore. So it's like if y'all can just give me a list of like good Artemis books, that'd be fucking great.
I feel like Mars would like probably know like all the obscure like things that you would need to read.
I need that.
Yeah. Greg, I know you do a lot of like DC. Do you have any off the head recommendations?
Not for Artemis, no.
Okay.
No.
Also,
it's a character I just haven't had a chance to dig into as much. There's so many. But I picked up 2 Batman books.
Nice.
Detective Comics, which is in the midst of their weekly series that they're putting out, Arkham Tower kind of thing, Assault on Arkham Tower, or whatever they're calling it, which has been a lot of fun, actually, which is a good thing, because if I'm buying a book weekly, it better be enjoyable.
Yeah.
And it's I mean, it is a Detective Comics series, and we haven't seen Batman in it for the last 8 issues, and I've been okay with that, really, like, which is surprising because I don't really like the Bat family as much. Obviously, I like Nightwing, but it gets a little bit too much. But they're really telling the story well. That's making it. And then I picked up the Batman the Night, the Chip Zdarsky, and this is not everything I want, but like this is what I love of an origin story. You know, the first time I feel like we really got like Batman, who Batman was, you know, in the movies was Batman Begins. And I feel like this is a comic book version of that, you know, where Bruce is trying to figure out, you know, what it is to become a vigilante and how he has to learn to figure out what's going on and how to become a spy. You know, in this one, he, you know, comes in contact with one of the world's greatest burglars in Paris and how that all has to work and, you know, trying to figure out and him trying to steal so he can learn from the best, so that way he can stop the best. And it's a story that's been told, but it's Chip Zdarsky and how he's telling it, I think, is fantastic.
Yeah. I mean, like, Batman as a character has been around for what, like 8 decades now?
Ever.
Yeah, right. So there's a lot to that character that it's almost like what hasn't been done with Batman. But this definitely is that like Jesus era of Batman, where it's like from the time that he's born to the time that we see him be a carpenter, like what the hell was he doing? So I feel like this is like that era of Batman. I hated that #1 issue so much. I love Chip Zdarsky, and I'm like, I can't do this.
What'd you hate about it?
I really feel like Batman, maybe this is just me, I really feel like Batman needed to stick in therapy. And I didn't like that Batman just walked away from therapy. It's so true to character, though, because I'm sure Batman's like, or Bruce Wayne at this point is like, I'm too good for therapy.
But yeah, but also wasn't it, I could be confusing my Batmans, but wasn't it bad therapy?
Bat therapy?
No, bad, like bad bat therapy.
Oh.
Wasn't he was that the one with Hugo?
I don't know.
So there was, I'm pretty sure it was that issue 1. I could be wrong. He was with Hugo, and he only is in therapy to trap Hugo, who was manipulating billionaires to give them their money and things like that. And by doing the hypnotherapy that he was doing, I read so many Batman books. I could be wrong, but I was almost positive that was issue 1. So he only joined therapy because he was being Bruce Wayne Batman to try and one up him.
Yeah. I didn't like that book. I didn't feel like I could stick with it. That was the one where I was like, I'm not going to spend that dumb bitch money and keep going with it. I should have, though.
I'll spend it for you.
Okay. Okay.
My current favorite Bat book that is a Nightwing that doesn't have Batman, like 0 Batman in it is Arkham City, Order of the World. Yeah. Oh, that is such a good book.
Yeah.
I've been enjoying I Am Batman. I've been liking that new take on Batman, and I've been loving that series. I know I had some issues with it in the beginning, but like it's really found its own in that. So, but I'm very interested in checking out that one that Bearded just said.
The Night.
Bueller, are you reading any Bat books?
No.
Good man. Good for you.
Bueller's more of a Marvel guy.
Well, actually, I like Batman stuff, and really the only DC book I'm reading, and they only came out with 1 issue so far, and I don't know what's going on, but that latest Swamp Thing Black Label that came out 2 months ago, and I don't know where number 2 is.
Green Hell, something like that.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to that, and just with everything going on, I just kind of really dropped off my reading list, which means that they're all piling up. Yeah, and how do you get back to them? You don't. You just have to skip it and move on to the new stuff, because there's comics come out every Wednesday, and there's only so much you can do. So DC, unfortunately, they're one of the companies that doesn't send me any books. So I don't have digital copies of them to read, and I do that a lot, with stuff. But I don't have any DC stuff, so sorry, DC.
So DC, Bueller's worth it. You need to start sending him some DC books. So
I was supposed to be some kind of DC ambassador, and there was something I was supposed to do for them, it was going to be a monthly thing, and I was going to feature something, and I told them no. And it took like 3 months of vetting and stuff like that, and they had me do all this stuff, and eventually I was like, they gave me this list of stuff to do. I was like, I told them, like, that's a lot of work. And I said, forget it. I go ask someone else, because I didn't want to do it, after, and I was all for it at the beginning, but I was obligated to do all these things. It wasn't worth it. So I said, forget it. So,
that stinks. I mean, I get that, if they have to vet you and if they have to be like, are you actually going to review the books that we send you? Or are you actually going to but then at the same time, it's like, I've got a whole bunch of other stuff to read.
Yeah, there was a lot of stuff to it. And I was just like, it wasn't worth it. So.
Yeah. I don't know if it's maybe just like a prestige, like the prestige format thing that's going on, because I feel like, what is it? The Kelly Sue DeConnick book, Wonder Woman Historia came out in December, and we're not going to get it until March. And then I feel like Catwoman Lonely City is running a little bit behind as well.
Because that's only on issue 2 right now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I feel like those books, though, they were at least announcing that there was going to be a long break in between them, so it wasn't as much of a surprise. So I don't know if that's the creative team that they're working, on it and how they're doing it, but that and I know Green Hell both were not like shockers, at least when they first announced it, because if you look, they had said it was going to be a couple months in between. So.
Yeah, I knew that with Wonder Woman Historia, but I didn't know that with Green Hell, and I've just been waiting for it instead of looking and seeing when issue 2. So it looks like April for that one.
You waiting for a Swamp Thing book? No,
I know.
I think we're getting the Lake one is coming back pretty soon.
The Romvee one is coming back, and it looks like Swamp Thing's daughter. Tiffy is coming back.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Are you guys reading that DC Vampire? I tried the first issue. I didn't like it.
DC versus Vampires?
Yeah.
That one?
Yeah.
I read the first 3 issues, because that's usually what I'm like, all right, give me 3 issues, and I dropped off. I was just like, it felt like Deceased light. Like it wanted to be like Deceased.
That's kind of what I thought. I was hoping, because I love Deceased, and I love anything that's not in the current story arc of the world of the current DC universe. So I'm more apt to get like the Swamp Thing, the Black Label one, or the DC versus Vampire, stuff like that. As opposed to having to know the lore of all the what's going on in Batman books and Detective Comics and all that stuff. So.
Yeah, you just want to pick up a story and enjoy it.
Yeah, I really do. Like, I loved Heroes in Crisis. I thought that was great. That was a while ago and stuff. And Deceased was last year and the year before. And then this year, nothing's really. I was hoping for that DC Vampire. I was hoping that was going to be the one that I was going to get into. Didn't pass the first issue.
Are you checking out what Dark Knight Steel, that miniseries?
I do have the first issue, and I've heard some really good things about it. And I know Damien Sleepy Reader always talks heavy about it, so that's definitely one I need to put some time into.
Yeah, and that one's only on issue 4 or 5 right now, so it's maybe about halfway through its arc. I think it's going to be 10 or 12.
Yeah, it was. Well, last time we talked to it was like 3 or. I think the one issue we didn't like was 3 or 4.
I thought it was 4, but yeah,
one of them, and so it's So
excellent.
That's it for my DC.
Any other DC books someone read this week or in the last couple of weeks that they really liked?
DC is usually my lightest week too.
Yeah, same. Well, let's go ahead and get into Marvel books. I feel like, I know, Greg, you said that normally you're a little bit heavier on DC books than you were this week, but you were heavier on Marvel this week.
I was 3 for 3, 3 DC, 3 Marvel this week. So nice.
I feel like I got more variants than anything. I'm looking at my pile right now, and I'm like, I got more variants than I actually read things. Did anyone read? I'm just going to go ahead and get into it. Did anyone read X-Men this week?
Absolutely.
Okay. This issue was very, very heavy for MODOK, so of course I had to buy it because MODOK is an absolute like just jerk, but I love him. And shout out to Patton Oswalt for, I think, solidifying that character for me. What were your thoughts on it?
The MODOK stuff was fun. It was fine. Like literally, this current new iteration of the X-Men run, the Hickman one was really, really good during like the main line of Krakoa era, and now this one, Dugan has just been doing a really good job with keeping this focused team. And I like that every issue has just been like each team member doing that Hellfire Gallo, why vote for me, and the whole reasoning. And so what I'm trying to get at is Sync and Laura in this issue were just fantastic. Like the part where it's like where it does call back when they went inside the vault, and she's just like, she knows that something happened because she's been resurrected, and only Sync knows that they had a thing all those like 5 centuries that they were in there. And so she finally asked him, was like, you know what, fuck it. What did it say? How long did it take for me to warm up to you? A couple of years, a couple of 100 years. Broke me down that fast. Like, yo, come on. It's so good. I love like the chemistry in this team.
I agree. I definitely think that having those moments with Wolverine, with Laura Kinney Wolverine, like shining through, like that made it for me for sure.
Yeah. Also the twist, I didn't think, because like there's a whole like looming story on Ben Urich and like him making a particular article on the whole resurrection protocol, and I didn't see that twist coming, that who did it, who erased his mind. And I was talking with Keith on like that, because like you see his notes, like they stole his stuff, and his notes weren't like bad. Like he really was almost like looking up to the X-Men. Like, what if he really did write like the one legit piece of article that would actually be convincing enough for people to accept that they can have a resurrection protocol, and they don't have to share it, because it's Urich, it's Ben Urich. He probably would have written that perfect piece of work. So but now it's gone. Oh, Mars here. Yes.
Hi Mars, I miss you. I'm glad she's finally getting settled into her apartment, but thank you for everyone for being here instead of Mars being here and doing a morning show.
But Mars has always been here, Jennifer. I wore this in honor of Mars. The Yar 4 fan club.
I'm gonna go ahead and blow you up really quick. Give me a second so you can show off that shirt. Oh, yep.
Nice.
There we go.
So Mars gave that to me at Baltimore Comic-Con, so she's here.
Any other Marvel books that anyone liked? Anyone want to just ride into it?
Oh, well, those are just X Lives.
X Lives. Okay. I feel like I only have the mental capacity to read Deaths. How was X Lives?
So this is definitely the Wolverine half of the story. So I guess it is doing a whole like Days of Future Past movie on sending Wolverine back. And at first I thought it was like, well, he's just trying to do these things to protect Xavier. But now it's actually crossing with his like actual timeline, his actual story. And it seems like there's going to be like, he's trying to fix certain things that now that he can. It seems like he forgot what he did in Age of Ultron, but whatever. And now there's going to be some real repercussions on like what he changes or what he's kind of like messing with. It seems like will be carrying over. And now there's kind of like this little domino effect where like he has to go save Xavier from dying, or else Krakoa doesn't happen. Or in the moment right now, Itsu, who is having right now Akihiro Dakin, if she dies, then Akihiro is never born. So he's literally in this really messed up pickle on what he should do. And it's interesting. It is very heavy on how it's jumping all over the place, especially how it's just like it's supposed to have like this duo story. But it is kind of like House of X Powers of 10, you know, like it is like that, but it's just more Wolverine focused. It is crazy. And this particular issue alone, I like that it does mostly a callback to Daniel Way's Wolverine Origins run. There's like a character that does an appearance in this issue, and it's like and I like that part.
I love how you compared like this run is definitely giving me that like House of X Powers of 10 like kind of going back and forth. And I feel, I mean, I'm doing it, like I feel like I'm reading Deaths, but do you feel like they're more separated than they should be, or do you feel like there's going to be a culmination? Do you have to read one to read the other?
I want to say maybe not yet, because I feel like this issue just now presented an element to what it could mean for Deaths of Wolverine. That cybernetic Wolverine, that black and yellow one, he's called Omega Wolverine right now in 10 Lives. On one of the timelines, when he has like when he's running around with Sabretooth and Maverick, when he's in that suit, Omega Red has been possessing, like he was possessing Itsu, which is why he can't really kill her, or he's trying not to kill her because she's definitely trying, or this Omega Red Itsu's trying to kill her. And the cliffhanger was Omega Red possessed him, so he's Omega Red Wolverine, Omega Wolverine down the line. So we'll see.
Any other X books or not X books, Marvel books that anyone's excited about that they read this week? Anyone
I got a bunch. So who else wants to take over?
Okay, I was gonna say
go for it, because I don't really have any I enjoyed.
I can't remember. Greg, did you read Iron Fist this week?
No, that was the one I didn't.
Okay.
You and Ryan read it. I didn't read Iron Fist.
Okay. Anyone else read Iron Fist? The new one? Okay. I am not a big Iron Fist fan, so I really don't I feel like I can't talk about it. I wasn't a particular fan of the show, but I feel like this issue, it gave us a new character, so you don't have to know everything about Iron Fist, but knowing some of the background helps. What did you think of it? Do you maybe have more insight into Iron Fist than I do?
Iron Fist is cool. I like the guy. See, that's the thing about Iron Fist. Danny Rand has to be white. He is the white character. Iron Fist is a thing that gets it's a mantle that gets passed down the line. It can be anybody. It can be anybody's story, which is why I really like how this one presented such a new, broad story where it's we can take our time telling the story with the story, the shards of the sword. Again, there's also kind of part 2. If you guys want to know, get the true intro to this new Iron Fist, it's the key issue, I guess, now, where what it would be is the death of Doctor Strange is White Fox issue, is when this guy makes his first appearance, and the whole background on the sword shattering. So he has now his own legacy of a story now to tell. If it pans out, and I actually really like this kid. So far so good for him. And Alyssa Wong just writes some good Marvel books.
Yeah, and I feel like I really love Alyssa Wong, and I'm torn between whether or not I am going to go ahead and get more of this or not. I don't know if I'm that invested in the character, but I love Alyssa Wong's writing enough that I'm okay, I do kind of trust that.
Yeah, and I just like how when he ended up in Kunlun, he wasn't just oh shit, where am I? He instantly just started adapting, wanted to learn the ropes, because he has to now adapt with again, he has glass sword shards all over his hands and wrist, and he can use it as powers, but at the same time you have shards in you, and so it still hurt. He's still flawed, and it still hurts him, and I think that's a cool element for it too.
Yeah. What about I only have 2 other books from Marvel that I read. Anyone else on Venom? This is the Al Ewing arc of Venom.
Boom. I had to get the Dazzler variant.
Oh, yep.
So good.
No, me and the other Travis don't read any books.
I don't read Marvel. I read Spawn.
Travis's don't read books.
What were your thoughts on Venom?
Oh,
what was that?
I said I read Spawn too. So Travis's just read Spawns.
What did y'all think about Venom? Josue, what are your thoughts?
I've been following Venom for the last 10 years, so I'm just gonna be biased towards the book. This one, but with this project between V and Ewing, it's just so big. I love Johnny Case's run, but now these guys are just expanding it, and this let me tell this other dual story, and now we're on the Ewing half, and it's just it's cool that this one kind of did the whole let me explain what happened in the beginning of the arc, but it's one I definitely need to reread, because it's just it's so fucking big on where they're going, and I still don't see where that bigger picture, I guess, is what we're trying to say.
Because you're right, there's a lot of story to tell, and there's a lot of other characters coming into this.
Mm-hmm.
So you're right, there's a lot of story to tell.
The other King in Blacks, I was oh, that's an interest. I didn't think that was gonna come in so soon. Not that I was expecting it, but it's fuck, I feel like we just dealt with like the big bad, and now there were just these others now too.
Yeah.
Can I share my opinion on Marvel real quick?
No. Yeah. What's your opinion on Marvel?
I've said this before, and Marvel will not get another dollar out of me until they make better covers for their books, because their shitty covers are the same. The cover page is the same page as the books, inside the books. And I said about a year ago, I said I'm not buying any more for cover price. I'll buy them for 50 cents or $1, but I'm not spending. And I've stuck to my guns. I've literally had books in my hand and wanted to read it, like Venom, and I was like, man, this book feels like shit, and I put it right back on the shelf because it's so crappy. And for the biggest company that had the shittiest covers, and here I work with Marvel, and I'm telling them right now that their books are shit.
Yeah.
And they need to fix it, or I'm not spending another dollar on them. So there's stories I want to read, and they've made me read digital. Marvel has turned me into reading digital because their books are so horrible.
I agree with you. Because like I don't pick up any Marvel physically, but I do have Marvel Unlimited, and that's how I read Marvel. So I don't read it like right when it comes out, but I do read it down the pipeline.
Yeah.
At least they don't charge you that extra dollar just for the variant.
Yeah, exactly.
Would you?
Shout to DC.
I won't do that either. That's another thing I won't do with DC. I won't spend an extra dollar just for a thicker cover as well. So I'll just buy the regular cover for those. But yeah, I really have I kind of decided to stick to my guns on this one, and I'm sticking to it. And I just took all the Marvel books off my pull list.
I mean, now that you say it, first time I really like noticed it and realized it was this week when I was bagging and boarding my books. I said it to Jennifer. I was like, on our Friday show, I was like, I grabbed my Thor book and pulled it to get in, and I'm like, I grabbed the cover and almost like tore it, just trying to get in and bag and board because it was so floppy.
Yeah. No, I was looking. There was some book that just came out, and it was a #1. And I really wanted it, and it was just I think it was the Timeless one or something like that, and it was like that one shot for what they're doing in a year. And I picked it up, and I was like, oh cool, I want to check this out. And it was even the variant that kind of popped that it was selling for like $30 with a little clock on it, and I said nope. Even though it was worth $30, I don't want it because the cover is horrible. And because the paper's so bad, so I can't do it. I'm getting old in my ways, I guess.
Do you think, I think that maybe we had a chance to talk about it on the Friday show, like about adding an extra dollar to the price. Do you think that that's just something that, like, if Marvel added $1 to the cover and they were just better covers overall, or would you only buy Marvel if, say, they went ahead and did a better cover, but it would have to be at the same price?
Well, Spawn sells their book for $2.99, and the cover is a cardstock cover, and it's beautiful. And if Spawn and Todd McFarlane and that title can do it, then the biggest company in the comic book industry can do it as well. So I don't want an extra dollar or nothing. They need to just, they don't need to be a cardstock, just a little bit better quality. Don't use the same paper as you use for the inside of the book. Use a little bit thicker, a little bit of a difference.
Isn't Saga still $2.99 as well?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like DC's covers aren't cardstock, but the cover is a different paper than the pages. Okay, that's all they have to do. That's all I'm asking for, and they'll listen to me.
There's Marvel people watching right now, like people at Marvel right now who are like writing down notes.
Let's stop receiving my emails on Monday from Marvel.
Speaking of indies, I don't know if you got this one because I know you get yours in a monthly box, Greg. But Cult of Icarus, like, to me, the quality on this cover, like, it's very, very matte, and it's what's that?
Like velvety. It's like,
yes, it's like it is. It feels almost velvety, like waxed, like it like. I'm really surprised that it's not like a special cover that they did. It's not anything. It's the same, and it's $3.99.
It's like rubber. It feels like rubber.
Yeah. Yep. Like it could bounce.
Yeah. No, I definitely picked that one up.
Nice.
And the great thing about this cover, it doesn't have any glare to it if you take it out of the bag because it has that rubber fill.
Yeah.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah, you can hold it right up to a light bulb. There's no glare. It's beautiful.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's a great book. Me and Damien were talking about that on Wednesday. We both picked it up.
Well, since we haven't done I haven't done this show on this channel in a couple weeks because Mars and I have both been busy. What did you think of Cult of Icarus?
I haven't read it yet.
He just told you earlier that Travises don't read comics.
That is true. That is true. I thought it was maybe
They
just going
got
to be
my
a DC
money.
thing.
They did get my money. So
Okay.
I appreciate what they put out. So they got my money because of that.
Yeah.
The Scout has my money from the box, and then it's also sitting in my review copy in my email, and I still haven't read it yet. I'm so
Oh my
behind.
goodness. Well,
So viewers gonna stop getting his Marvel reviews. I'm gonna stop getting my Scout reviews when they watch it.
I really like this book. I mean, it's
a beautiful book.
Yeah. It's a pretty interesting premise that I feel like I've heard before. Like it's almost the vampire Lestat to me, like rest in peace, Anne Rice. And I thought it was interesting. But the one thing that I don't like about Scout books is that they do an issue one and then the next one doesn't come out for a couple months. So I hope that I remember to maybe order this one. Because it was a pretty unique take on like that vampire turned rock star type thing, and people are after this person who may have a family history of like vampire killing, vampire slaughtering, vampire hunting.
Did you read Stake?
I bought it, and no, I did not read it.
I was just curious because for them putting out two, because I haven't gotten to read Call of Icarus yet, but I was reading Stake, and it was a vampire hunter kind of, but as a vampire, but she was using more of the social media aspect, live streaming and things like that too. So I was curious of just how that compared. Sounds like similar aspects. So
yeah. So that was an indie from last week or the week before. I know we were kind of talking about Marvel a little bit, and
or Beard Bro. Did you talk about Venom?
I did get Venom. I didn't talk about it, and
talk about it.
Mars is in the chat still, and Mars asked which book did I not like at all from Marvel, and it was Venom.
Oh, really?
Here's the deal. I am 100% new to Venom. I read my history before comics of Venom was the animated series from the 90s.
Uh-huh.
And anytime, playing Venom in a video game from that era. Like that was it.
Gotcha.
Really from my knowledge of Venom. So I hopped in on Donny Cates' run at Venom Island. That's kind of right around the time, because I think it was right before Absolute Carnage or right after. So when I got back into collecting comics, because I took a break, the event was Absolute Carnage. So and then I was like, well, I'm going to read Venom. So that's my preface of where you're like, you've been Venom for 10 years. I've been Venom for 10 days, basically.
Yeah, I know this new run is pretty dense, so I get you.
And I really have been enjoying this new run with Venom. I like how they have Al Ewing telling the Eddie Brock side, and they're having Ron B telling the Dylan Brock side. I think that's a really smart move. And what I've realized is I don't really give a rip about any other characters in the Venom world, any other symbiotes. I don't care about the other world they are. I don't care about, Null, King in Black, any of the other. I want the Venom story, and I want now the story of Eddie and Brock, or not Eddie and Brock. That's the same person. Dylan and Eddie. I want those. I want that father-son relationship. I want to explore that more. I want to see that. And so when we're getting glimpses of that, I really liked it. So reading issue 5 here with Al Ewing, that's not a knock on Al Ewing at all about his writing or anything. It's that I was like, I don't care about the story that you're wishing to tell right now. I want the father-son dynamic. And then, so I was kind of already vibing that when I was reading it. And then Al Ewing and I don't know this character, so I don't know if it's his MO or whatnot. He literally has one of these symbiote characters while they're talking go, cool story, bro.
Oh,
and I was just like, Al, come on. Come on, Al.
Like he made up the mouthy one, and I was just a little too much.
Yeah, and I was just like, so when this was telling it, like I found myself just kind of getting lost and not really caring about the symbiote world that they were on and wanting to visit it. But as soon as they were going back to the flashback that kind of set up the arc, like you were talking about, I was there. I'm like, yes, give me this. This is what I want. So that's kind of where I'm at. I'm still picking up Venom. I'm still going to be reading Venom. I just really hope that they stay away from that world more and just go back into what I want, because that's what Marvel should do, is cater to me, who only reads like 3 Marvel books anyways. Give me what I want as a reader and not what everyone else wants. I don't care about the symbiote world.
Definitely pick up the Donny Cates Venom part pre like the stuff right before Absolute Carnage. Like that whole Eddie story, the setting up Eddie for Absolute Carnage was some of the best Eddie stories you'll get. It's really good stuff.
Yeah, so I do need to go back and do that for sure.
Sorry, I missed out on a lot of conversation that y'all were talking about with Venom, but one of the questions that I've been thinking about with reading this run is, do you think that the intentions of the writers were Ron V and Al Ewing, do you think that they are really trying to differentiate themselves from the Cates run, or do you think that they are just trying to fit themselves within it? Like,
well, they're definitely taking over from where they last left off. Like a lot of like new number ones will just be like the new fresh iteration. Let's just start over. Maybe sometimes not really, but let's just like ignore what the last person did. But this one is like, okay, we can't ignore the fact that Eddie became God, so that has to be told for continuity's sake. But it really seems like the story that does want to get told here is the Dylan side of it all, because they just prop him up to be not just important, but he just feels important, because it is like a good, out of all the Marvel books, I didn't expect to fall in love with the father-son book in Venom. And that's really the best part of it is.
Yeah. I feel like Donny Cates just kind of like dropped, like, here is like this storyline. I'm going to go ahead and do this like father-son story. And I'm just going to go ahead and drop it here as I leave, as opposed to tightening everything up. Like, he left a lot of loose ends, but in a really good way. So I feel like this series will never be able to get out from under that Cates run. And I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, or I don't know. I'm still liking it though. Like, I'm still like, it's on my pull list. I'm still going to be reading it.
Well, again, as a new reader to the Venom, has there been iconic? Because I would say this Donny Cates' Venom run was more iconic, well known, well read, well loved. Have there been many iconic Venom story arcs really before that, or kind of have they been throwaway Venom stories? And because I think that will play into it too, is if this is kind of the first, like, Donny Cates was the first kind of like, hey, boom, this is a great Venom story, it's going to be hard to top the next one, and so they do have to separate. So I don't know. I'm asking if
did people like that Agent Venom, like when it was a totally different Venom?
That's what I was going to say. It really was Rick Remender who really brought Agent Venom out from like that C-list Matt Gargan. We're just going to utilize him for a Thunderbolts character and never care about him. Rick Remender really stepped it up with Flash Thompson with him, and now that's actually, you feel the tension when the symbiote has to choose between Flash and Eddie. And it's just like this weird love triangle, but it's all good shit. Like that's a really good run too.
Yeah. Looks like Chaos and Comics definitely agrees with that. Cool. Were there, the only other Marvel book that I read this week was Marvel Voices. It was a Black History Month book, had short stories featuring Black characters by Black writers.
This cover.
Yeah, which one? I'm going to go ahead and...
The Monica Rambeau cover.
There you go.
Gorgeous cover. Couldn't say no to it.
Yeah.
Couldn't hurt to her.
Very cool. Was there a particular story that you like either loved or hated? Or for me, these ones, honestly, like any of these, because they're anthologies, they pack a lot of story in here. Some of them land for me, sometimes they don't. How did you feel about that?
They are just like fun, like stories are based on representation. So it's just gonna be like the batch of like, if it's gonna be characters that you click with. Like for one, it's cool that we actually got a cool Runa story. Thompson's Valkyrie character from Ragnarok. It's cool that she's getting represented, and it's kind of a dark story with like people actually getting cursed. But then you just get like these one-page simple stories of like Blue Marvel, and it's just like, I love Blue Marvel so much. So it's just like your little fun stories. I'm glad it wasn't $10 like the last one. It was just a little shorter and just sweeter for like the budget.
Yeah. That's one thing that I also liked about it, because I ended up buying 3 different covers for this. So really glad that it was not $10 a piece.
Yeah.
And a lot more of the stories landed for me than, say, the Women's History Month from last year did not land for me whatsoever.
Okay.
Didn't love any of those, but yeah. I like that these are nice little snapshots of a lot of different characters in here. Moon Girl being one of my favorites.
Oh yeah, I did like the Moon Girl one too. I love her adventures.
Alrighty, so that's all the Marvel books that I have for this week. Were there any other Marvel books? I know the answer for Bueller. No more Marvel.
You got them all. Yeah. All the Marvel books.
Everybody else marveled out? I got a couple. I just need to get off my chest.
The only other I haven't read Thor, just because everyone was hyping on that Thor 20 book or whatever, where Godhammer, I don't know what it is. I didn't get it because it was sold out, and so now I'm waiting for the one that I'm getting in Comic Tom's box to get there. So like I'm holding off on 21, 22 till I get that. So, but I did read Amazing Spider-Man.
Okay, cool. I read Amazing Spider-Man 2. Then I will not talk about Thor because it was a fucking great issue. And it'll just be I can only talk about spoilers, but so no, I could not do that to you. Yeah,
just talk in code. Talk about it, but like pretend that, like, I don't know, like replace words or
I mean, it's Donny Cates at his most bad boyness and like culminating of all the awesomeness that he's been like building up here. Some really dope shit happens. So those are the words I can use. I'd rather you bask it in yourself than just like me ruining it with my review.
All right.
What other Marvel books you got that you got to get off your chest?
Then Donny Cates' other book, Hulk, is just ridiculous. Like I really want to read. I back here behind me, I have Ewing's Immortal Hulk. So I really want to read that because I was just like, it's nothing but great things. But Donny Cates is just doing bonkers shit with it, and I can't say no to it. I love like the whole level system. We finally got a new one in issue 4, and level 4 is Marvel Zombies, and it's just it's so stupid, but I love it.
I picked up issue 1 of that run, but as someone who I read the recent Immortal Hulk, I wasn't really sure. I don't know. The new Donny Cates run just didn't feel great with issue 1, or it didn't like captivate me enough. Was that a mistake? Should I have still been picking up the rest of them?
What I kind of came to find out, if this really is what we're going with, like the whole premise of the book was, what if the Hulk was protecting us from Bruce Banner? And yeah, it could be in reference to our 616 Banner, but now Hulk, like in his Hulk starship, Bruce Banner just said like, fuck y'all, I'm going across the multiverse and meeting other Bruce Banners and see how they did it. And now we're on the second Bruce Banner where he never became the Hulk. The Gamma Radiation Project was a success, and they bombed the whole fucking world. So that's kind of how like the mutants became a thing, but then they eradicated those. I'm kind of getting spoilers into this book. So I wonder if Donny Cates is gonna go, what if the Hulk was protecting us from like all the Bruce Banners across the multiverse?
I like that. I like that a lot. I feel like I missed out, and should go back and read that. Maybe I'll check it out on Marvel Unlimited.
It's just like how Bruce is taming the Hulk in his starship form with like, again, like this level system. Level 3 is just like the dumbest, funniest thing ever. So it's like, so I'm curious how he's leveling it up, and it's just stupid.
See, fun. That's what dropped me off of them. I think I read 2 issues, and Starship Hulk was just like, I don't know. And I haven't read a lot of Hulk books, so I was like, I don't know if this is a really good one to get into my first really Hulk run.
Yeah.
Any other Marvel books from anyone else?
I do got to come clean. I did buy a copy of Hulk.
Nice.
What the fuck, Bueller? You said you weren't buying them.
But
You're a liar.
People know this, but my nephew was born about 7 months ago, and I'm collecting Hulk and Spawn for him.
Nice.
So all my Hulk books are going in his collection, so when he gets older, he'll have the Hulk run and all the new Spawn books. That's the only reason I bought this book. I didn't even open it and read it. So. But he's already got a nice little collection. He's got a little Alex Ross short box.
Ooh.
And he's got all the King Spawn, Scorched, and and Gunslinger Spawn, and then all the Hulk books. So
King Spawn has been fantastic.
yes.
Yeah. Tell me, okay, so I read the first issue of King Spawn. I don't know too much about King Spawn, so it's just like I'm going to try to get into it. Couldn't. If y'all are ready to talk indie books, can you tell me about King Spawn and like maybe why I should be reading it or what's going on with it?
Go ahead, Travis.
I was going to let you go with it, and that I'm a few issues behind, but like I've been enjoying it, and that the art is fan freaking tastic in it as always. But it's I don't know how to describe like it to get people to read it. It's just a fantastic read in that it's a lot darker than Gunslinger Spawn and the original Spawn. It does get into some graphic, bloody, gory type of feel to it, but if you can get past that and just read the story, you'll definitely enjoy it. But Gunslinger Spawn, it's a little different. It's a lot lighter. Definitely not as dark as King Spawn is, but it's definitely winning my affection over. I like King Spawn better than Gunslinger Spawn, but Gunslinger Spawn, the fights between him and Violator now, and the Clown is coming up in this new issue. So you're gonna firstly get the whole Violator and Clown in one panel for the first time. So I'm super excited for that.
Yeah, I've enjoyed all the Spawns. King Spawn is probably my favorite one. Just the first few issues brought back Billy Kincaid, and which is just one of the creepiest villains that there is. I mean, this thing is kidnapping and killing kids and stuff like that. And they made him look just horrific. They like took him and invoked the Hulk and put the Hulk in his body and stuff. He's like huge, like muscular, just like not the Kincaid that you remember when you first started watching, or if you ever watched the animated series or stuff like that. And he's just like a huge monster, and like they just ripping him apart. I mean, it's just brutal. And there's big, huge splash pages that are just 2 pages long, and they're just beautiful artwork. I mean, they're really going for it. They're really just trying to build this universe with 4 different Spawn books, and all 4 of them I've enjoyed. So I mean, if and they're all $2.99 too, by the way. And I always want to point that out. And I buy multiple copies of those books just to show my support. I have 2 copies, or let's see here. There's the regular copy and the variant, and then I got 2 copies of the. Actually, I don't know which one's the variant and which one's the regular. So I'm buying multiple copies of these all the time. I don't care if they're worth any money. I don't buy books for that reason. And awesome. It's awesome. I enjoy giving my money to Tom McFarlane. There you go, buddy. Take it.
And with the issue of 3 of the Scorch, that one's definitely going to be worth some money, considering that he stole the cover from Jim Lee's X-Men #1 and put on the Scorch #3.
I think he's doing 4 issues of that. The next 4 issues are the covers of the X-Men books.
Because I know he did the same thing with Spawn coming forth. It's his old Spider-Man cover that he did for Marvel.
Yeah. So I think the next 4 issues of the Scorched are the A, B, C, and D cover of the Marvel X-Men. So if you get them all, you put them together. If I'm not mistaken, I sent an email out. I don't know if I understood it correctly, but I did see the one cover that looks like the Wolverine and them on it. So
yeah, King Spawn is definitely high action packed and fun in that. I don't like the character. I forget his name now. That you just mentioned his name, Billy Kincaid. I don't like him, but I like what they did with him.
Yeah, like blew his head off and he was still coming at you. It's like his head was hanging on by like a thread, and he's still full bore coming at you trying to kill you. I was like, okay, he's gonna make it.
And this is the series you are getting for your 7-month-old? Is that
yes?
Okay, just want to clarify. This is judgment free zone. I just want to clarify.
I've had that moral dilemma as I looked at that book. I was like, this is the one I decided to get for him, and I was like, you know what? Maybe he won't look at him right now, but eventually he'll appreciate him.
Yeah,
I know why you're living in a bus now.
This is church. We pass down scriptures to our loved ones.
Yeah. Yep. But you know what? By the time I feel like I don't know, when I was growing up and like getting introduced to the internet, like I saw some like just horrifying shit. So I feel like this, like that'll probably be mild by the time that this kid grows up. So this will be like, I don't know, Peter Rabbit.
Yeah, Todd likes to cross the line in his books and that, like, get all pretty real with a lot of his stories. I feel like even in his earlier works with like the first 50 issues and that, they dealt with a lot of topics that not a lot of people were dealing with at the time. And it was crazy. There's a couple of issues that I will not go back and read just because they're heavy hitting. But yeah, he definitely knows how to push the bar forward, and that kind of change it up a bit. But Sean Lewis is writing King Spawn. If I'm
He did Coyotes. Yeah.
Thumbs.
Oh yeah.
Thumbs. Oh. Now I'm like, I've got to go back and like try to pick those up.
I have King Spawn. I should give it a try because I do like Sean Lewis.
Same. I didn't know that. So yeah, definitely an eye opener.
Dag nabbit. Are they, what issue are they on right now on King Spawn?
I think they're going on like issue 6 is going to come out next.
And if I have issue 1, they're not like 2, 3, 4, 5. Like there's not like key books that like we're not going to be able to get them if we try and go back. Is there?
I don't think so. I know that they are doing that whole thing like we were just talking about, like doing covers with like the X-Men, homaging the X-Men. So it'd only be like the whole the B covers that McFarlane's been doing are the ones that people are going to spec on the most. So other than that, you could probably go back and get the A covers for fairly cheap.
I don't need the variants. My name's not Jennifer.
What I was going to say is Image said that I guess starting this year, they're not going to be doing any second printings of any of their books, right?
Yes. That was them, yeah.
That was after they did the whole Stray Dogs printing.
Stray Dogs. It was like 6th, 7th printing, so I don't know if which I just felt like was such a big moneymaker for them, doing all of those horror homages for Stray Dogs. They announced that at the same time they were doing that, and I'm like, are you sure, Image? But
well, they don't have any more Stray Dog. They don't.
Oh.
I mean, that's what they're trying to figure out now, right? Like, because Dog Days is wrapped up, and they really can't tell that story anymore unless they go a completely different route of a character. Which I guess they could, but I think it would lose its. So I think Image is moving on to because Tony Fleece has like a rabbit killer book now or something coming out from Image here soon. So it'll be interesting to see. But yeah, they can make that call because they're like, we're done with Stray Dog. We don't have anything else to.
It would lose its charm if it got like a sequel or something.
Yeah, and which I think that Dog Days kind of tried to be, but it didn't. For me,
like, everybody's like little origins, like story or how they got like captured. Like some of those are pretty horrifying.
Yeah.
There were some that punched you in the gut though. Like
for sure. Like the cat one, like the cat that like started missing. Oh my god, let's just not. We've talked about Stray Dogs.
Yeah, we've already been traumatized.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, speaking of other indie comic books that I read that are published by Image, I actually picked up Reign #2. I wasn't sure how I felt about this because the first issue, it was a lot. It was very like emotionally traumatizing, and issue 2 felt like it packed that same punch. What are your thoughts on it?
Are we the only 2 that read it? Oh, there's 3 of us that read it.
Yeah. The other 2, the Travi. Is that how
I guess that's how you do it. I did read issue #1. I haven't read issue #2 though.
I'm disappointed in you, Travis.
Damn you for reading a book.
I know, but I wasn't sure if I was going to pick this up, and I'm like, I know that if I admit that I read this book, Mars is going to be so mad at me. So I'm sorry. I'm disappointing.
Yeah, but at least you didn't. You're like you're kind of over the series. I'm the one that's so like I probably am gonna get issue 3. So Mars is really gonna hate me.
Yeah. My thoughts on it were just that it's still, there's nothing happy about this book, and it feels like there's nothing redeeming about this book. And not necessarily that I need my comics to be happy or that they can't be dark, but I just feel like there's nothing in here, like, not necessarily that I'm not rooting for the characters, because I'm rooting for all the ones that, spoiler alert, are left alive. But I feel like I'm going to be deeply, deeply traumatized by this book if I keep reading it.
Yeah, I think that's definitely the path that we're going to put ourselves into with this book.
Greg, you said you're going to still pick up issue 3?
Yeah, I don't, because I guess I'm intrigued by some of the things that happened in issue 2 to at least make it where it's like, because I'm not going to spoil stuff because one of the Travis are still reading it. But I guess I don't need everything to, be happy good. If it's a story that I'm intrigued by, I'm okay if there's no redemption. I've watched a lot of shows where the characters are pretty crappy people and there aren't redemptions arcs for them or whatever. And like, that's not the case with this, but it is a super depressing story from the aspect of, the cult that they have is kind of weird for me that they introduced a lot more in issue 2, and it just felt out of left field. So I wasn't digging that, but I'm really interested though. I don't know, like really interested. I'm more invested in this to see what happens than I am with some of the other comics I'm reading. So for me, I'm going to keep reading Reign because I think it's 4 or 5 issues.
Yeah.
At this point, I'm in, like, I'm not going to quit on issue 4 and be like, that's it. I feel like on a 4 or 5 issue miniseries, I can't quit.
Right.
Yeah.
But I've only done that on like one book, and I think that was like the Neil Adams Batman Ra's al Ghul book. I was like, this is rough.
I feel like that's how they keep us in. Like, they're just like, oh, it's only going to be a couple of issues, so you might as well pick it all up. That's how it was with Good Boy. I was just like, oh, I'm going to pick them all up, and that. But it is a heavy story. It was kind of depressed in the first issue, but like I'm in for it, even though what you guys are saying it's not making me want to read issue number 2, but I'm still going to read it.
Speaking, I know, Greg, you and I talked about this book a little bit on Friday, on the Friday show. But did anyone else get a chance to read Until My Knuckles Bleed?
Oh, no.
It was in black and white.
It's only...
It was in black and white. Am I wrong?
It is. There's colors in it.
Some color in it, but yeah, there's the first couple pages. I think what it's trying to do is illustrate that it's in the 90s. Like, so it definitely feels like an Image 90s superhero book, maybe with less pockets and pouches.
So, like a Spawn book, you're saying this is, if you like Spawn, you'd love this book, is what you're saying, because it's a 90s superhero.
It was I had it in my hand. I did almost buy it. And
Okay.
I put it back down because I opened it up and it was in black and white.
Yeah, there's a little bit of color. I don't know what I'm showing. I hope I'm not showing anything spoiler early.
Or things that will get you demonetized.
Yeah. I didn't love this book, but I feel like it wasn't horrible. Like, there's other Behemoth books that I've picked up that I'm like, this is definitely going on the like apocalypse toilet paper pile. Yep. This one wasn't necessarily that, but I didn't feel connected with this. I feel like even though this one is that same place where it's like a 3-issue miniseries, I'm still just not gonna pick it up. Greg, maybe you can do a better job of explaining this book than I can, because I'm just like dogging it.
No, so this is one I'm gonna pick up. I'm hit or miss on Behemoth books. This is one that
a lot more misses.
They come out. Behemoth usually comes out the gate buck wild on issue number 1, I think, and I think that's usually can be a downfall for them because there's so much going on. There's so much weirdness and just over the topness that you're like, wait, what's happening? This is probably the slowest burn of a Behemoth book that I've read for an issue 1. It's really trying to set up this world of these 90s superheroes who have fallen, from, they're retired now, and they hang out, one's a bouncer at a strip club, the main protagonist, and, he still goes and has coffee with his ex-wife, and they hook up every once in a while, because they were married and things that they went through as crime fighters that they can only, talk with each other about. And there's a bar that all the old crime fighters go back to and hang out at. And there's an FBI director who kind of crashes the bar and is trying to say, hey, need your help trying to look into this kind of situation. So that's a premise, but it's a very slow it's a lot of world building for this story, which I'm okay with because it's such a slow burn. But issue 2 has to come out the gate punching, because if it's another slow burn for world building, I can't be there, because I think this is only a 3-issue arc, and a lot of because this is under the Behemoth, but it's under the Happy Tank banner, the imprint, and the Happy Tank books have only been really 3 issues for the most part. I know MFKZ is 8 now, but Cinnamon was 3, and there was another one that came out that was 3 from Happy Tank. So there was a lot of buildup for now only 2 issues here to see. Now, that's not to say they aren't going to expand the world more, but this felt to me very much like the matter regarding Oswald's body, where that first issue was an entire episode of Ocean's 11 montage where, Danny Ocean getting his crew together, and I wasn't invested in it. But obviously then the payoff is a lot better for issue 2 because you have all these relationships and these characters and things. But for an issue 1, it was a very slow burn. And I feel like this is the potential of the same thing. This is a slow burn for issue 1. And I'll be curious to see if issue 2 comes out swinging, because, and even the last panel, it's he's at a Comic-Con. And so signing a comic book, I think that's based off of him. So it's a world I'm intrigued to look into, and I just want to see where they take it, but they've got to blow me away the next issue. Even though it's only 3 issues for, I might guess this is it.
Yeah, I agree. Because like you said, there's a lot that happens in this book to do that world building. We're told, back in the 90s, they were bigger name superheroes. And then we get to see where this guy is at now. And he's the bouncer at a strip club. And then, he goes and he has dinner or breakfast or something with his wife. And then at the very end, and I wouldn't necessarily call this a spoiler, but then he's signing a book at a comic book convention. And so there's just a lot going on, but I feel like there was no plot there still. And for a book that's called Until My Knuckles Bleed, I expected bloody knuckles, and it should have been more.
Yeah.
Should have pushed a little bit more. Any other indie books anyone else wants to talk about? Because I think that's all the ones that I read, even though I did buy more.
You didn't do your assignment then.
What was my assignment?
You were supposed to catch up on Cloaked.
I was supposed to catch up on Cloaked. You can go ahead and talk about it. Spoil it because it's issue 3. So go ahead and talk about it if.
I'm so curious on that book.
Yeah, because I know
anyone
really
else picked up Cloaked?
Mm-mm.
So it's a 4-issue miniseries from Dark Horse, and it basically is if it's set in the Batman world, but not being Batman. That's what it is. And there's a private eye who's being hired to go back and find out the secret identity of the vigilante. So we'll say Batman. And so he's going through and reporting, and he's going back and talking to the Robin kid. He's going back and talking to the reporter. So your Vicky Vale type of person. He's going back and talking to, breaking into an asylum so he can talk to the Joker kind of archetype that they have. And stuff is happening with everyone that he's talking to, and so now he's being investigated and things like this. So there's this whole world that's he's being hired to go investigate this, but then someone's obviously not wanting to investigate this, and they're trying to cover their tracks. And so it's a cool take on looking at the Batman world of where what if Batman was realistically more like a real life version, right? And you have Batman has a Robin, let's be honest, a billionaire hires adopts a ward, and then there's a a dude and a kid fighting crime, like people probably could put 2 and 2 together. but like this one, it's like this guy just literally just like hires them randomly and like uses them as bait to throw them out there, like to try and then save the day, and doesn't even really know anything about this kid that like he hires. Like it's just is a really cool, to me, story arc that I feel hasn't been dug into too much, of looking at like what, you know, the vigilante aspect of, you know, as a reporter trying to figure out the background and stuff. So I really am digging it. This was issue 3. There's only one more. I think the way they're telling the story, you can really only tell it in 4, because otherwise it's going to get repetitive, and I feel like you would know where it's going to go or something. So I think like it's a good tight story for 4 issues. And if they want to expand, they wanted to expand on it more, they'd have to change kind of the format of the book a little bit. But
I'm surprised that this isn't published by AWA, because they've been doing those like short series runs that I feel like deconstruct a lot of those tropes. And from what I understand, this book, like, it takes that superhero, like if you have that superhero fatigue, if you feel like you've read every single superhero narrative, like you've seen them do all the things with superheroes, deconstructing the characters, then this book I would definitely recommend. I would also, based on just knowing that, but having read this series, would recommend like Black Hammer. Like that does such a good job of world building, and I'm really glad that that one's a really longer series. But this one being a short series, it's kind of nice, because then they may do a $20 trade.
I just read volume 4 of Black Hammer for the first time last night. I finally finished Black Hammer.
Oh, what did you think?
I liked all the way up till volume 4.
Okay.
So, in short.
Have you read any of like the spin-offs? Any? Okay.
Not yet. So.
Any other indie books that anyone else is on? I've got a pile here. Maybe 2 that I read. Any other ones that anyone else read?
I picked up 2 that nobody's mentioned yet. I don't have them yet, but one of them being G.I. Joe, a real American hero. Oh, there you go. That is written by Eric Burnham, who is like one of my favorite writers from IDW. And when I was talking with him, he said that he's like taking the aspects of the cartoon. Like it's like you could just stop watching the cartoon, pick up this book, and you feel like you're still in that universe. And they're also adding the whole aspect of Aladdin and the genie into it as well.
Yes.
Huh. Cool.
A lot of fun. It says on there Saturday morning cartoons, so they're kind of going for the cartoon aspect of it, not the
for that nostalgia. And that's in issue 1. So if you read it, because if you've read it, do you feel like someone like me, who I'm not nostalgic about G.I. Joe and like the Saturday morning cartoon, anything like that, do you feel like that's something that I could pick up, or should I invest in like the lore in the background of it?
You wouldn't like it.
Okay, I wouldn't like it.
It's very cheesy and a very Saturday morning cartoon.
Yeah.
Okay.
But that's what they're going for. So if you're looking for like any meat on the bone, there's nothing really there. It's just fun, goofy stuff.
What Eric told me is like he was while he was writing this, he would be have the Saturday morning cartoon playing in the background. So it's definitely takes that cheesiness to the book, as Bueller was saying.
Nobody ever gets shot. You know, all the lasers, they go right down. It's fine.
Okay, so like death but PG.
Yeah. They all shoot the guns out of their hands, stuff like that. You know, nobody ever gets hurt or nothing. So.
It definitely holds that in
The Pravish collection is just so dynamic to go from King Spawn both of the uber top gore to G.I. Joe, where it's like the kids G.I. Joe where they're missing each other shooting. I love
the G.I. Joe book isn't going to be the one that he gives to the nephew, to the like 1-year-old nephew. He's not getting the G.I. Joe PG book. It's the King Spawn.
No, this one goes to the nephew. Freak Show Kingdom. That's the next one right there. Look at that.
Oh my god, that looks cool.
Is that Behemoth?
No, that's Second Sight Publishing.
Yeah,
I picked up 3 Second Sight books this week, and I'm like, man, they're bringing #1 issues, but I only read one of them.
Yeah, I was going to mention another one by Second Sight that I just picked up too, that came out this following week, called Silence.
Yeah.
And that sounds very interesting too. I also know, you probably know the writer as well, Evan Pozoyas.
Hmm.
Bueller? You're connected with Second Sight just like I am.
Yeah, I know a few of them, but he doesn't sound familiar. I know the writer of this one. What's his co-writer of this one is the guy Jonathan Hedrick. He's a friend of mine. So
is that Bueller? Have you read that one yet?
What's that?
Have you read that issue yet?
No. This is here's the thing: the Second Sight publishing books, they've all been out for almost 2 years. They're just now getting into the Diamond distribution and stuff.
Okay.
So I had a copy of this like from a Comic-Con 2 years ago, but it just now hit retail stands.
Well, because I saw that, I was flipping through it, and I saw that in store, and it almost feels like it was a collected, because I backed a Kickstarter by Jonathan, like Freak Show Night or something.
Yeah,
that story.
Yeah.
That story was like in it, so I was just curious if it was like a collection of those or what it was.
Yeah, well, it might be because this has the dual writers in here. There's more than just
okay.
It's a couple different.
I think it was up in price too.
Their book too. It's $4.99. So, but like they had the other one come out just this week. Those damn kids, or these darn kids. That one's been out for over 2 years. Man, I've had that sitting in my box for years, and issue 1 just came out. So.
I was able to read that digitally, and that, like, I know Chaos and Comics was saying like we need more horror books. Definitely check out that book. It doesn't have a lot of gore into it, but it's a lot of mystery thriller type of aspect, and then some spiritual aspects to it as well. So it's fantastic. Definitely check out These Damn Kids.
Yeah, I know the writer for that one. He's a good dude and stuff. He's like
the co-writer Peter Brow. He's from my neck of the woods. He's from New Brunswick, Canada.
Nice.
Whew.
I confused that one with Damn Cursed Children, which is like a whole different book.
Yeah. And that one's published by another yeah. The 2 other books that I got by so the 3 that I got Silence. Didn't read that one yet. And then the other book is The Last Days of Us Forsaken. I didn't pick that, or I haven't read it yet, but the one that I did is Athena. That's the only one that I read. It's just like a cool fantasy book. But I didn't like how it's I don't know if it's maybe just a Second Sight thing, if there's some printing errors in this book that are really noticeable, like took me out of this. So I don't know if that's true of the other books. But
that is a problem they've had.
Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah, no worries. It took me out of the story a little bit, but because I know that I know that they're an indie publisher, and I know that they're not necessarily going to have maybe like the editorial staff or the production staff of like Image. So I'll give them a little bit of leeway, but it did take me out of the story a little bit.
I think about a year and a half ago they put out a book that was missing the pages. There was like three or four pages missing out of the book.
Oh damn!
They went to print, went out to shops and stuff. So I know the guy who's in charge of their printing and stuff, and he's no longer in charge of the printing.
Well, you had one job, guy. You had one job.
Yeah.
You had. Sorry.
This is a little side thing. I did a exclusive for them, Blowtorch #1.
Mm-hmm.
And some of you guys might have got, I think Travis has a copy of it and stuff. There is actually 2 different copies of the book. And I'd never told anybody that because they screwed up on the printing. And so there is literally, depending on what you got, there's one with like a thicker cardstock cover, and there's one with a regular cover. And the one with the regular cover has like different paper inside, and the thicker cardstock has different paper inside. And one of them is like a half a centimeter wider than the other one. And because they use 2 different printers. And I made sure whenever I shipped them out, I made sure that people got the same copies, because I didn't want people to realize there was 2 separate versions of the book and stuff. But they misprinted like 150 of those books, and that's why I still have some to this day. But yeah, there's 2 different versions of the book, and luckily nobody ever said anything.
There wasn't like a Bleeding Cool article about it, or
No. But if you, I was pretty careful to make sure, because some people bought multiple copies, and I was like, okay, I got to make sure I send them the same copy. So
they're watching right now, and they're like, I did that on purpose. I wanted one of each.
No refunds after 365 days.
Ah, shoot! I was gonna ask you for you to do a refund of my books.
We're about to leave here.
But the thicker card stock is less printed. I don't know if that means anything. So,
Greg, I saw that you were holding My Bad.
Oh, I was flipping through it and rebagged it. Yeah. It's a series that I'm loving. It's from Ahoy Comics. It is Mark Russell, Bryce Ingram, Ingman, and art is done by Peter Krause. And this is issue 4. There's one more issue in this series. It is, if you're not reading it, I love Ahoy Comics because they make me laugh, and a lot of them are over the top funny, but this is a premise of it's a superhero book again, but you have it's Mark Russell writing superhero books, and then Bryce, who is good friends with Mark, is also writing this, and Mark's writing the main superhero person, and Bryce is doing the villain and some of the side characters, and they're just really over the top things of like that. It's a kind of retrospective look at superheroes. Are like, well, that's kind of silly. Where at one point the main character is going around beating up people, trying to figure out, if the villain knows his name, and he's doing it, like in his non-superhero form. So he's beating up vigilante, he's beating up supervillains as this billionaire playboy, and he's like, oh shoot, I'm not in my costume. Oh crap. Like, it's just really good, and the side story arcs are just entertaining as all get out. And so I love this series, and the cover is a chimp that throws acid. That's his main job. He was created for a trap that was supposed to catch a superhero, and one of the 12 stages of this trap was an ape that throws acid on people. And now they're taking that character, and there's a little short story of where the ape is trying to go to the chimp is trying to go to the hardware store to get acid, and he's writing a note like, give the chimp acid, it's okay. And it's just entertaining. So if you haven't, I know Ahoy is another small company we're talking about, Second Sight and Behemoth and some of those, but Ahoy just puts out a lot of funny books, and I'm really enjoying what they're doing.
Now, do they ever put out trade paperbacks?
Yes. So because Ahoy is doing they did The Second Coming, Billionaire Island, they did The Wrong Earth, and so they put out, they're all in trades. They do their trades. So Planet of the Nerds is another Ahoy comic, which is one of the first ones that I read of, where it basically is like Encino Man, where they freeze people, and they're like, they basically take the bullies from Revenge of the Nerds and freeze them and put them in today's culture of like where nerds actually rule the earth with Comic-Cons, and like, so they get unfrozen like at a Comic-Con, and they're like, the very stereotypical jocks that are from the 80s movies, that are, borderline offensive probably at parts nowadays. It just is funny. So I like Ahoy Comics. So yeah, I definitely would check it out if you want a good laugh.
That's
and you
awesome.
said that's issue 3 of 4, so it's probably, hopefully in the next couple months, going to be finalized, and then probably by the end of the year there'll be a trade for that, hopefully.
Yeah, so this is issue 4. There's one more issue coming up in, I believe it'll come out in March or April, because it's been every month. And then Ahoy usually has been about 3 months, so I'd say in the fall it should be out in trade.
Excellent. One of the, we're talking about books with animals. Did anyone else read Primordial? Oh, were you thinking Animal Castle?
Yes, but I didn't get that one though.
Okay. So Primordial finished up this week. It's a book written by Jeff Lemire and artwork done by Andrea Sorrentino. Yeah. The artwork goes with this book so well. So this is the last issue. It was very heartbreaking. absolutely loved this one. I loved this series a lot. What did you think?
I really enjoyed it for like not really answering like the big ominous question of why we all really jumped on this book.
Yeah.
We did get a much more touching ending, like you said. It's actually really good. It made me think of We Three.
Thank you. Yep, that's exactly what I was telling Greg and Ryan this Friday, that it
Nice.
reminds me so much of Grant Morrison's We Three.
Right, and so yeah, I really like the end with just like them calling each other like they're like the two people that say home. It's just like it was very endearing, and I like that we get a good callback to something that happens like in the past that we never kind of come back to. So it's cool we get that little bit of closure.
Mm-hmm. It did leave a lot of questions like unanswered.
Yeah.
I don't think that they'll do like a, Primordial 2, season 2, anything like that, but I really liked it. And I think that I love the comparison to We Three is like immediately what my heart felt.
Mm-hmm.
What about since you guys read Animal Castle? I haven't read it since issue 1, and issue 3 came out this week,
Mm-hmm.
right? How are you feeling about Animal Castle?
Go for it, dude. Or is he muted?
Yeah, I was gonna say I feel like I've been talking nonstop. Why don't you go?
Yeah.
I feel like this is like maybe like their strongest issue. Like the first issue really opened it up and being like, okay, I'm staying. I really want to know what happens here. The second issue introduced like a weird element that I was not expecting with like the side job, but this one really amped it up with like the inevitable revolution. I really like how it got played out here. It wasn't just like a one-time trope or one thing that'll spark the whole thing. No, they kept pushing it and pushing until the fat cats finally like had to do something about it, and even then they showed it up one more time, and I really like that. It's so far it's a really good Resistance story.
Yeah, and I mean that's what I love about it. It's been this, it gets a lot of comparisons to Animal Farm.
Yeah.
And it is, I would say it's like Animal Farm mixed with any, revolution story that you want to, like you were talking about, of where the underlings are going to roll against the hierarchy of society. And it's just this really good, look at where we are in a society of like, the humans left the castle and the animals were like, oh, this will be great. We can all have a life that's great now. We can all, and literally right away, the alpha dogs take control and start running. You have the bull as the king, and all the dogs are kind of his guards, and it sets a stage for, taking a look of that aspect of, where do we fit into the scheme of things in this hierarchy? Because a lot of times we'll look at stuff, if it was just a regular story with humans and this revolt, we might be like, oh, this is a little on the nose. We know what it is, but they're trying to separate that and pull you out of it a little bit with the animals, like you do in any science fiction style book, where you're looking at.
Like I like the part with the donkey when it's like the first instance with like the daisy painting, and she's trying to scope out who will step up for the resistance. And there's a donkey that's like, and they do a little setup, a little makeshift of a bull of like the president, and it's like, pick up your stick, or if you're, what's the quote? But it's like, pick up your stick if you're willing to, and it's like he's about to. Oh yeah. To strike back the bull, choose your stick, and it's like a couple linger about, and he goes to swing, but then like that fear hits him, and then it's like almost like it wasn't enough, which is why I really like this issue where it's like it did it again with like setting up another thing to just like throw your finger at the hierarchy, and then it did it one more time and to really step it up. And after that, it was like there was a cool moment where like the donkey comes back, and then it just like kind of grows from there. So it's definitely like somebody said in the chat where it's like it's a sleeper it's definitely a sleeper book right now.
My biggest issue with it is it's super wordy. It's a lot of panels. It's a lot of writing. It's not a quick read, which isn't a bad thing, but you've got to give it its due diligence because there's so many panels I'm trying to find. And the lettering, it's just so tiny,
right?
That like you really have to you pull that away. There's so many small panels, and then you're trying to gleam in like, look, it's that's my only really knock on it is there's a lot going on in it, and so it makes it hard to read sometimes because you have to really focus in on those small little word bubbles or word blocks, I guess.
So Mars, this is not a book for you.
Yeah, if it's wordy. Yeah, I think that she was reading it. I think that she did pick up issue 1 and enjoyed it. But you're right. Even issue 1, it was pretty wordy. Like if it has more than 7 panels, even with not a lot of words, that to me is like, sometimes too much. And all right, any other indie books anyone wants to bring up that you liked, hated?
Stuff that I just have to shout out because I did read all my books, but Time Before Time, it's a book that I'm enjoying, but it's because like we're in the game, so I can appreciate it going issue by issue. But it's definitely one of those where it's like we only find them when they're dead. A much better read if you trade weight it, because it's a time travel book, but it just hops around too much, which is, I mean, that's the point of the book, I guess. But yeah, going month by month, it can be a lot of times a lot too much. So for sure, if you're interested about this book, wait for the trades. I promise it'll be a much better read.
Okay. I picked up issue 1 of that, and I was like, okay, maybe I'll go ahead and pick this up, or like, whenever issue 2 comes out, and my pile that week must have been overwhelming, and I'm just like, I'm not going to pick it up, but yeah, I'll try the trade.
Last quick one. There'll be some quick ones. This is a book that I just personally like, just because like there's nothing special about it. It's like MFKZ. It's just an adaptation of it in a different medium. I've just been enjoying The Great Gatsby.
Oh wow!
Who does it? Clover Press. And this is like the cool foil variant that I need to find issue 2 of it. Even like the back is really nice for it. It's literally, there's no spin, there's no like modernization. It's literally just an adaptation of The Great Gatsby in comic book form. So if you just want to digest it not in a novel, there's this too. It's just out there.
I've never heard of that publisher before.
Yeah, I that's my first book from them too. It was only because of the title.
What was the publisher again?
Clover Press. Yeah, Clover Press.
Kaiser Soze asked, "Is anyone reading King of Spies?" Greg, you said that you had been reading that one.
Yeah, issue 3 came out last week. That's a Mike Millar. I mean, it's very Kingsman-esque story. If you don't like that world, I mean, it's over the top violence, and I'm digging it. My biggest knock is he always does a character that has to be some weird, like, in Kingsman, the lady with the blades as her feet, and this one is like a brother sister, or it's a couple, I forget what they are, and like the guy doesn't have his torsos, he doesn't have his legs, and so he only has his torso up to his arms, and the girl doesn't have her arms, and so like he's like strapped into her on the back, and they face back to back. Like, it just is like over the top, like that. It takes it out of the story a little bit for me, where I'd be a lot more intrigued into the story of, because I'm really liking it. But when those characters pop up in those books, I'm just like, it's a little too much over the top for me. Yeah, someone says he wears like a backpack. It's goofy.
Wow,
that's awesome.
That's kind of like, I feel like that's my brand of weird that I would really like, but at the same time, it sounds not necessarily confusing, but like, is it necessary? Does it like move the plot forward at all? Or is it just like, I'm going to make this weird ass character and it's just going to be weird for the hell of it?
If I could get someone with no arms or legs and just wear them on my back, I would.
Just have them like do the thing where they like slip.
Yeah, why not? I mean, it's not like they're going to get away.
What other indie books has anyone read this week?
I won't go heavy into it because you have to read it. The Silver Coin.
Okay, that's on the top of my list right now. So when we're done here, I'll be reading that.
It's so fun. This one just felt different, just because we've read the past 8. If you get the coin, 1, you're fucked, and everybody who steps in front of you for sure is going to be fucked. This one, same thing. Person gets a coin, but it's more of like the evil that spreads throughout the world instead of just like whoever just comes in that person's path. and it felt very Vita Ayala, just having that social story, and that's what it's going to make me really excited for the Pornstock Pusha Shode for Volume 3.
That's excellent. I know with this series, there's been a lot of, I don't want to say like hits and misses, but because it's an anthology and because like each writer gets to put their own voice or maybe their own spin on it, there could be really strong books that just aren't for certain people, or maybe it's too horrific or not horrific enough. But I trust Vita Ayala enough.
Well, some of the books in that series, the coin didn't really represent anything. Some of the writers in it really understand what the coin's for, and some of them I've read, I'll be like, why was the coin even involved? They didn't even need to put it in the story. I remember, I think it was the one with the girls, like at the, I think it was the girls at like a camp or something.
The summer camp, yeah. Issue 2 or 3, I think.
Yeah, the coin it didn't really serve a purpose at all in that story. You know, they could have told the story no matter what. And then you get other stories like the first one, or I think there was one with the arcade, and which obviously made a huge difference in the story and stuff. So I think some writers get it and some don't. So that's what you get, like you said, with an anthology book, when they're all different, you know. And same thing happened with Haha. There was a couple ones that didn't hit on that one. The only one that I could say is consistent is the Ice Cream Man. I think every story in that one I've been really enjoyed, and even though everyone's different, you know, I've liked the whole thing. So,
and that could be because, you know, it's the same writer, same artist, and because even that one, it's like each one is completely different. Like even Ice Cream Man doesn't need to play a role in it whatsoever. Like normally Ice Cream Man is still kind of there, like in the background, maybe just for like a little blip, but doesn't play a front role at all. Where you're right, I think the books in Silver Coin that shine the most are the ones where like the coin is a character in the book.
Another great anthology series. Well, it's kind of anthology, kind of not, because it's kind of connects the stories all together at the end. But Hotel has been fantastic as well. I'm glad that relaunched.
I agree, and like that one surprised me, especially going back and reading the first volume where issues 1 and 2 are connected, but not in the way that you think. And so I really, really love Hotel. I think that I like Hotel as much, if not more, than Ice Cream Man. Fantastic book.
That was like the first series that I jumped into getting back into comics, was that one. It wasn't even a superhero book. It was that book right there.
All right. Any other indie books? We're getting to the 2:00 hour, so I don't know if anyone wants to wrap it up with any like other books that they want to talk about, or any other like indie books that they want to talk about that they really like.
I just gonna spitfire like 5 more.
Yeah.
I got a couple books I have on my pull list.
I'll go for it, dude.
I'm still The Walking Dead. I really enjoyed. I'm not reading them yet. I'm waiting until I get out in the woods in my bus. And I'm going to read them all together, like in the middle of the night and stuff. So really get the mood and stuff. And then why not? We'll throw this one in as well.
Nice.
The Bronx is Burning.
I haven't been liking that.
I like it. I think it's pretty good. I read the first issue of this one, and how it was. Unfortunately, it was kind of. It wasn't timed very well, because when the first issue came out, because it takes place in a high school, and there was literally like just a high school shooting. Like that same week, and it was like, I remember talking about this book, and I'm like in the news, like they're talking about people just got killed in school. I was like, oh man, I felt kind of bad and stuff. But the book itself is pretty good. This is another one I should probably collect for my 7-month-old nephew. So that's it. That's all was on my pull list this week. So
if you're like, would he be a toddler? If your nephew is watching the show right now, spoiler alert.
Yeah. Well, I'm his great uncle. I'm not just his. It's my. I don't know how that translates to nephew, but it's my nephew's kid, so I'm his great uncle. So I can do whatever the hell I want.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no rules then.
Yeah, I'm the great uncle. So.
Me and Big Herm are with you on picking up every one of the Walking Dead deluxes.
Yeah.
I'm picking that up religiously. I'm only up to issue 40, like reading wise, but yeah, I'm enjoying it, and it's just more for a collector's standpoint. I just want to have a complete set of The Walking Dead.
Yeah, I never bought any of them when they were out. I didn't even know that Walking Dead was a comic book when the show was playing because I wasn't collecting at the time. And then like, oh, that's a comic book. I was like, I didn't know. So now this time around when they started, I was like, oh, I might as well do it and go back and start reading it. So
because those are the reprints done in color though, right?
Colorized, yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
with some added bonus, some writer notes as well.
Okay, cool.
A little more detail of what he was going for.
That's
I mean,
awesome.
I was in the same boat as Bueller. Like, I mean, I was watching Walking Dead, and that kind of got me back into pick. I mean, I would go and pick up the trades at the hardback trades at Barnes and Noble because I still wasn't even going to comic book shops at the time again. So, I think that's cool. I haven't been doing that because I've been getting the hardbacks. I'm like, I need to try and cut my budget somewhere.
Well, that's what I've been doing. Like I've been picking up that's how I read. Like I read them all in black and white, like up to issue 40 from my library. So I've been just picking them up from that. And like I said, like picking up the Walking Dead Deluxe is just, I want to have that in my collection in floppies. One way or another. To me, I don't care if it was the original or this deluxe version. Deluxe, in my opinion, is better.
I'm really surprised that there's not as much spec on those books, like people talking about picking up the deluxe version to get like first printings or first appearances of characters and things like that. I'm surprised there's not as much spec, but I like it because people who didn't get to experience Walking Dead when it was coming out, who got introduced either one to comics or just like going to their local comic book shop because of that book, I'm glad that they can like pick that up weekly, even though it's 15 years later. Is that right?
Just about. Starting in 2003.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they went for a while and it just ended a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
The last issue.
Abrupt. Any other books? I've got two other indie books that I haven't read yet, and one of those is Homesick Pilots, which is okay. So I haven't read this one.
Yeah, I see it on the back too.
Yeah. This book is so, like, it's on issue 12. This book is now not the story that we started with issue 1. It is, but it's not, and I love that.
It definitely has subverted your expectations every step of the way. You thought it was gonna be like a horror story about this haunted house, maybe with some more of a fetch quest to this haunted house, and now it's about ghost kaijus, and it's fucking awesome. And then it's all over around like these punk aesthetics, and I love this book so much. Like
this 90s punk aesthetic. And I don't want to like spoil it, but it's a little bit like time travel-y. So I feel like a lot of comparisons with Paper Girls, where when that came out, it was like Stranger Things, but with girls. But then that one goes, spoiler alert, Paper Girls goes like into the future, does a much more like sci-fi heavy book. Whereas, and I guess because Paper Girls, it's set in the late 80s, I feel like this could definitely be, you would enjoy both of these books. And TM, you said that you're reading Paper Girls right now.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to reading more of Homesick Pilots now from just that talk about Paper Girls. Yeah, I do agree. It's kind of like Stranger Things, but then you get to volume 2, and that's when you get transported into the future, and it's a whole different story at that point.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. That's exactly how I feel about Homesick Pilots, is that it is from issue 1 what it was. It is not that same story, but in a fantastic way. Like you won't be disappointed. Do you have any other thoughts on it, Josue?
No, I mean it's just it's a book I thoroughly enjoy every time. The one thing I do not get every single time they don't do it, it's there tends to be this pattern where they'll at least have like a page of just like music talk or some sort of like punk conversation, whether it's good or bad. They're talking shit about a band, and this one just didn't have one. But there's also just so much shit happening.
Speaking of books that maybe have like musical components in them, What's the Furthest Place from Here, number 4 came out. I haven't had a chance to read it, but the last issue left us not necessarily on a cliffhanger, but it was going in a weird direction.
Mm-hmm.
Did you read this one? Did you?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
it's awesome. Like the last issue was really good. It really creeped me the fuck out with like the old people, and this one's more of a setup. It's kind of it's gonna be a 2-part story really. It's like they made it to like, the carnival, but we're discovering that all of the factions are coming to the carnival, and we're gonna have a discussion on the next issue. So for sure, I'm excited for this one. But the book is just fucking hilarious. I love the way these kids are written.
Yeah, it's really interesting because it's not necessarily that there isn't a lot of world building, but I definitely feel like it's more character driven than anything else.
Can you blow me up for a second for like one quick spoiler, not important spoiler?
Of course. Okay.
They go to this carnival, and one of the attractions is something is kissing the children.
Oh, that is absolutely fantastic.
It was and it's on an Image book, and that's a Boom book. So it's kind of like so it's cool. We get a little crossover here.
That's excellent. Very cool. Did you have any other books that you want to shout out that you read this week? Yeah. What is
last
here,
ones?
I'll blow you up.
They're all endings, really. So I'll start with the non-favorite. The house is non-favorite. Deep Beyond. I read Deep Beyond all the way through.
Blessed.
This book, it was never anything I expected. Again, almost like in a Homesick Pilot's way. From the first issue, it was like the world's gone to shit. The air is basically poisonous. We got to go down below to find some sort of cure. So cool. Bet it's gonna be a maritime horror book. But it's not that. We go deeper. We find the Bermuda Triangle. I was like, okay, well, what's down there? We find a portal. We go through it, and it just every single time, every 2 issues, it just kept becoming another story. It kept going. It kept taking a left turn where you never thought it could go. And by the whole second half, you have all these new rules that you can play with to come back up to the surface. And so, it made it for a good journey. Again, this wasn't just an Andolfo book. She was also like co-writing this, so I think that's where it kind of also helped the story out a lot.
Okay, see, picked up issue 1, hated it, and I'm like, I'm not going to do it where I pick it up. And our co-host Ryan has been picking up all of those, but does not have very good things to say about it. But the way that you just spoke about it was a lot more eloquent.
He's picking it up 12 issues, and he's like, I hate it, but I'm still doing it. That's my guy Ryan for you, though.
I picked up like 2. I read 2 issues of it, and I was like, nah, I don't see where this is going. So I'm just like, I'm done.
And that's what kept me with it, because I didn't know. I wanted to know where it was going. And by the time we finally made it to like this trench, and there's like this giant, beautiful triangle with the station in the middle, it's like, well, all right, what's on the other side of that? And again, like you get introduced to these new rules by the second half, and it's like, it does become a better story. Another ending is A Man Among Ye. There aren't a lot of swashbuckling pirate books out there, and there should be, and it sucks that another one has ended. Bad Idea just had one with Pirate Queen, and now Image. This one actually started first before Bad Idea, and again, it's a story about Anne Bonny, so it's just like an actual legendary pirate. So this is kind of telling like the lost chapters of hers. Yes, awesome.
You look at that book too, and it doesn't even scream Image. Like you'd think, like I don't know what you'd think, like maybe AWA, like
right.
Well, it is, at least it is from their imprint Top Cow. Like, so it isn't straight up Image. I mean, I guess it is. I don't even know how imprints really work, but
yeah, I definitely enjoy this book. It's like I said, I just went to 8 issues.
So I knew that book was coming out, and so it sounds like there's probably going to be a second trade, because there's already 1 trade.
Yes.
And if that's issue 1, so then I guess the first trade would be 1 through 4, and then this one should be 5 through 8, or maybe they'll just do like a whole 8 issue series for it.
Yeah, cool. So they've already done. I'm pretty sure you're right. There's already a trade out, right, for the first. Because this was an arc. This came out.
The artist changed too for the second volume.
Because let's see, it came out, started coming back out in this fall, because it had taken a hiatus. So because when I had talked with Stephanie over the summer, it had just wrapped up that short arc, and then she was coming back out with this latest edition, coming up with it. So yeah, I agree. There needs to be more pirates in comics.
Yeah.
There's just not enough pirate books. I mean, one of my favorite Elseworlds was the Batman pirate book. So, I mean, come on, let's go.
And my last book, one that just has all the heart in the world, Kanto 3, Lionhearted. Oh. I love the series so much. 1, 2, 3, all the bridge stories, and we get one more bridge story and an actual conclusion final volume. But just Kanto, it's just the best. I love
I heard Bob scream from somewhere.
Yeah, as soon as you pulled that up, I'm like, I really hope that Bob is still in the chat. Because I think that he's probably introduced like half the comic book community to that book.
Oh, really? It's a great recommendation book. Like even like the first volume, you can just give it to like your favorite nephew or a kid that's like, start with this, like start your comic journey with this book, and it's like it's really good.
So Bueller, I wouldn't be surprised if Bob like slipped that in for your nephew.
It's a horrible. He fails in the first volume. He's a failure. Why would you give a comic book? Here's this character. He's gonna go on his journey. He's gonna fail.
But did he fail?
Way to go, kid! You know I'm not gonna do that. So anyway, I'll give
in reality, he learned something, so he didn't fail.
Yeah, he learned how to be a loser.
The entire time you were talking about it, and Jennifer's like, "Oh, Bob would love that." I can just see Bueller just going, "Oh, I hate this book." And then she's like, "Oh, this would be a great book to give your nephew." And Bueller's like, "No,
not mine.
Not mine. Get on it, not Kanto."
He's getting King Spawn. So
King Spawn wins at the end, I assume.
Bob really wanted to do a exclusive variant for Kanto.
I hope the Shrouded Man is King Spawn.
And he looked into it, and unfortunately the cost is way too much, so he kind of backed away. But he really wanted to for a while. So yeah, he's definitely into that book. It's kind of weird, actually, the way he's into it. It's like a middle-aged man gross obsession type thing. It's like, dude, relax, and he just goes way overboard. So I don't know.
I'm right here.
Their own. He gets all giddy and I don't know. Never mind.
But isn't it true that he like bought a bunch of like Kanto like trade paperbacks just to send? Like I know he sent me one, but he like sent them all out to people.
No, he actually did. You ever see that thing when people get a bunch of money, they lay it out on the bed, they roll around in it? He did that with the Kanto trade paperback.
He did that with the first issues.
All the first issue number 1 floppies. Just
yeah, all those damages that were on issue number 1, that wasn't because of the printer press, because Bob rolled on him on his bed.
You know how Scrooge McDuck just has that tower of coins that he does? Bob does that with all the single issues of Kanto.
Yeah. Like I said, weird obsession.
Does anyone have any last books they want to talk about or anything? Anything else they want to pull up and show off?
I finished the whole 51 issue run of Ecstatics, and that was awesome. Loved that run. Let me get it right here.
Have you read the new Excellent book?
I finally got around to it because this had to happen first. This giant monstrosity had to come in first, just so I can actually understand that one. And thank God, because that first issue was going to be nothing but spoilers.
Yeah. I have only read the first like volume, which I think is maybe like 6 issues of Ecstatics. And so I felt like I didn't love Excellent.
Oh yeah. You definitely do need to kind of not the background to kind of get like the whole lore or understand like the mythos of everyone, but just have that attachment of like why you give a shit about these unlovable characters sometimes.
Yep, they really are. They're like kind of weird. They've all got like a little bit of like quirkiness, and they don't like they like each other enough as a team, but they're still
just vain. They're just vain, famous people, famous mutants.
Yep.
Since we're on the topic of like finishing series, I finished like I think it was about 2 or 3 weeks ago. The Wicked and the Divine. Finally finished that. Yes. I was kind of disappointed by the ending to a point. Like there's a lot of build up to like not a lot of payoff, but I did like that final page with that character and that like how it's like 4 blank pages, and then like you write your own future type of way. So I did enjoy that part.
Nice.
I feel like that's something that I have learned to come to expect with Kieran Gillen, like anything that they write. I know that I love the first issue like usually the first and second trade, but then a series as long as that, it ends up kind of going off the rails a little bit in a way. So I've kind of I'm learning to expect that now from new series with him.
Oh, and like the 8th volume was really, really rough. Like I read it by trades. So the 8th volume, it is like literally 20 pages of strictly dialogue. There's not a lot of pictures in it, so it's strictly dialogue. So it does take a while to get through.
That 8th volume, was that the one that kind of jumps between like the stories? There's like in between chapters.
Yeah, like you're back further in time in that, like.
Yeah,
In
that's
the
the one
volume.
that's the one I read in a specific way in between volumes 4, 5, and 6. There's like these issues in 8 that take place in between all these other ones, and it's like it got kind of dense. I get you.
Yeah, and I don't know if it's because they lost their artist or not, because there was a few pictures in the book, and then you look at the pictures and they're like poorly drawn, so you're like who drew that, a kid? But like, yeah. So I think they lost their artist. That's why a lot of like the 5 issues of that was just strictly dialogue.
Bueller, anything else you want to show? Anything that you picked up recently?
No.
Other than your bus. I mean, you just show off your bus, which is pretty freaking cool.
I do have tomorrow. I got a video tomorrow officially showing the whole bus. All the outside's all done, all the inside's all done. So tomorrow morning, it's a comic hall / bus premiere video. So if you want to see what the bus looks like, it's pretty outrageous, to be honest. Yeah. It's definitely thank you, Whatnot. I'll just tell you that much. Whatnot put in thousands of dollars to make this happen, and it definitely thank you, Whatnot. So find out what it looks like tomorrow. So
what time?
I'm probably gonna premiere it at 5, like the coffee video or something. But it's only like a 10-minute video. So
okay. Excellent. Greg, anything else that you want to show off or talk about?
Nothing that I'm showing off. I guess come to my channel if you haven't seen my stuff. I've got an interview dropping tomorrow with Fellhound, who's our artist and writer of Commander Rao for Scout. I'm in the midst of a Kickstarter right now. Then Wednesday, I'm dropping the video that Fire Guy Ryan and I recorded of our top 10 favorite AWA books. So that'll be fun. And then Friday nights are my video where I do the Name the Character show with my wife. And we've got some more content of Mrs. Beard Reads a Comic and our cooking show. We got some more of those episodes coming up here in the next month. So be on the lookout if that's your bag.
I went ahead and just dropped the link in the chat for your channel. So definitely go ahead and check out Greg, because not to throw you under the bus, but I feel like the videos that you do with your wife are like the ones that I just find the most joy in, especially the cooking one, and especially like guess that character or guess that cover. Absolutely love those.
Yeah, no, I mean,
it's a dynamic between the two of them.
She makes my channel. I probably still wouldn't be doing the channel if it wasn't for her, because she brings the fun to it. Where I'm just like, I like comics. Hey.
Yeah. So. For sure. Well, TM, what do you have going on your channel? I'm going to go ahead and try to find the link to your channel, but tell the people what you're about.
Well, I have Chatting with the Comic Community is my stapled show. I just love talking with everybody throughout this community. My last show was with Q from JRails247. That was a fantastic conversation with her. And then this week it'll be Mark from Legion of Comics. So that was a very interesting conversation. I did talk with his son for a little bit while Mark stepped away, so that's a little fun little tidbit for you. I was just over on Spine Ticks for 5 hours last night. Definitely go check that out. I was also over. Me and a group of people in this community. We're all Kevin Smith fans, So we all got together to talk Kevin Smith and talk about his movies. We all started over on Evil Mike's channel. We started with Clerks, and then this past week we were over on Tylox the Mighty's channel, and we were talking about Mallrats. In 2 weeks,
nice.
we'll be over on Raging Cajun's channel talking about Chasing Amy.
Whew, that went to that age.
Yeah. Wow. Well, that's it. Seriously, TM, I know I said it before, but you are seriously one of like the hype people of this community. I'm pretty sure that you have sat down and talked to like every single other like YouTube comic book YouTube person, or at least you're there. You're getting pretty close to hitting the like end of the line, as it were. Like you've talked to everyone, which is fantastic.
Oh, there's still more people I'm getting introduced through this community and that. And I do plan to talk with Bueller. I do plan to talk with Bearded Comic Bro. And that it's been a while. Like I should have been talking with Bearded Comic Bro a while ago. But that guy's like, you know what? Screw that guy.
Yeah.
No, you reached out like probably a year ago and like the date conflicted. And then you never reached out again. I was like, dang it, I missed my one shot. To the show.
One shot.
I was like, oh, that was, had one opportunity, but
it's all right. If Mars is watching, she knows how it is. It's like I had Jennifer on like episode 12, and then Mars is like episode like
20 or
yeah.
Bueller, I know that there's a lot of changes coming to your channel, but I know you talked about a little bit earlier with like the bus life. What's going on with that?
A lot of changes, to be honest. I mean, it's like a whole new channel.
Yeah.
Except for the preview video that I've been doing for like 4 years. It comes out on Wednesday. That's really the only thing that's staying. Everything else is going to be brand new. The new stuff is going to be the main things are going to be going to comic book shops, highlighting comic book shops, filming videos in there, interviewing comic shop owners, going to comic creators' hometown, interviewing them on the bus. Stuff like that, and also just meeting my audience that not necessarily does YouTube, but has a collection that they want to show off. Whether they want to be on camera or not, that's up to them. Some do, some don't. But I want to show people's collections, and if they're willing to show it off, I'd love to show it. It doesn't matter if it's Action Comics #1 or X Force #1. They're all special. I don't care what it is. So
They have to be numbered. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. But all sorts of things and more stuff than that too, because I also want to do travel stuff as well. I want to incorporate my travels to all across the United States and kind of put them together. And maybe that's not for everybody in the comic book community, but there'll be more variety on there for all that stuff. So a lot of stuff to come, a lot of Comic-Con stuff coming up. I'll be at pretty much every major Comic-Con this year. So I'm looking forward to that. The bus will be on display, like in booths on the floor and stuff like that.
Oh, wow.
So yeah. So, I mean, there's just a whole bunch of things and working with my sponsors and stuff. So very, very excited to get it going. I'd say I'll hit the road probably, I'd say March. Like I said, I still have stuff I'm doing here locally. So I'd say April probably be the month, and we'll see that content on a regular basis all the time. So that's where I'll be traveling the most.
I remember one of the last times that I was that we did a show together. You were telling me about that. You were telling me about all these plans, and you're like, "Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and like get the bus ready. Like, I don't have the bus. I'm gonna like sell some stuff, get the bus. Bob's buying the house, things like that." And you're like, "I'm not planning on like doing anything until March." And I'm like, "Oh, that's like 5-6 months away. Like, you got time." And now it's here. So that's so cool to kind of see the progression with that.
It was definitely, I announced it on my 3-year anniversary, which was last February, that come a year from now, this is my goal. I honestly didn't think I was going to make it. I thought, it was kind of a big change in my life, and I was like, I don't know if I'm making the right choice. But here we are, February next year, and I've done it. I'm literally sitting on my bus right now talking about comics to you people and the people in the chat, and this is exactly what I wanted to be doing.
Awesome.
So it feels pretty good. It's like mission accomplished. So
you can't turn back now.
Yeah. So I'll find out if I crash and burn within the next 60 days. So we'll find out. And I'll be feeling that, hey, Bob, you want a roommate? So there you go. but we'll find out.
Love it. Josue, you have like, you don't do, I mean, you're on YouTube right now, but I don't think that you have like your own like YouTube channel, but you do a couple different podcasts and live on Twitter. Do you live on Twitter?
Yeah, I'm pretty much on Twitter at Josue Reads Josue. And yeah, if y'all need another comic book podcast, ours is We Have Issues, where my good buddy Keith and I get together every week and we talk about most, if not what always sounds like all comics from New Comic Book Day. It's always quite an adventure. And then my other podcast, it's a really fun one. It's a music-based podcast. It's called Jukebox Vertigo, and every episode we get a new category, and each of us brings in like a couple of songs that we share to a public playlist. Like this last episode we did, we talked about trios, a bunch of trio acts or trio bands, and that's always a lot of fun.
I did go ahead and link, because it was the one in your Twitter bio. So I did go ahead and link the Jukebox. Yeah, you're very welcome. But like you said, on Twitter, Josue Reads Josue. So, well, that is it. It's 2.5 hours, and I want to say thank you so much. Not that either the collective or anything like that can fill Mars' shoes, but I want to say thank you, because we haven't been doing shows this past couple weeks, so I want to thank you everyone who joined. So thank you so much for everyone for being here, and hopefully Mars and I will be back together next Wednesday. And then you can also check us out on we've been doing it on Fire Guy, Ryan's channel, Bearded Comic Bro. Greg and I talk about comic books each week over there on Friday nights.
Woo-woo.
So thank you all so much for being here, and have a good night. Bye.
Good night. We miss you, Mars.
Miss you, Mars.